It's true. We did. We should have known better. And no one can quite explain it. For those just listening, Serbia made a candy named, I'm not going to say it, so I guess you have to watch. Serbia made a candy named N-word, but the somewhat less innocuous N-word, but not the completely, the one that ends with A. No, it's that kind of middle path one. Made a candy with middle path level danger N-word.
Is this real?
And this is what happens when a black guy visits Serbia. This is what happens when a black guy... Yeah.
What? Is this real? Where's this from?
From the local supermarket.
Bro, what? No, what country made it?
It's a bit. He's devoted.
Serbia.
It's a bit.
It's made in Serbia.
Why the fuck do Serbia got my...
Yo, bro, that's...
Why they got my face on your called Negro?
I feel all kinds of... It's entertaining, but at the same time, I feel bad. Not because it's my country or anything. I just feel bad that I have a segment on this. I've done certain things like this because you can buy them here. They actually import them here too, so you can buy them from like the Balkan stores here. Ma and Pa style Balkan shops, like they sell them here. And I brought him, and many laughs were had with my non-white colleagues as well. But now that I think on it, I don't think I've ever brought them in for like a purely black chap. But I kind of felt, fun was had by all because the other, whatever, they've got this admixture here. A lot of non-whites, but with admixture. But now that I think about it, I should have felt worse because I never had many laughs by bringing him to an all-black friend / colleague / other.
What the fuck? Yeah, that's not legal. Bro, I'm about to sue him.
Yeah.
Is this real?
It is. It very much is.
Official design.
Who made this tip?
And yeah, I've done. I don't have it handy here, but I've just got a segment that's been backlogged, and now it might as well not even post it because nothing's gonna top. The internet caught wind of it now.
Where's this from?
The internet.
From the local supermarket.
Bro, what? No, what country made this?
Serbia.
Yeah. He's so proud of it too. Yeah.
Yo, bro, that's...
Why they got my face on your called Negro?
No one can quite explain it. No.
What the fuck?
And they keep producing it, and I can to this day. I can still get it here.
Bro, I'm about to sue him.
That's what I keep saying. There's nowhere to escape to. There's nowhere.
That's the official design.
Yeah.
But this is not to be the age of ripe, alert, and harmonious personalities, but of work that may be of most use to the Commonwealth. Men are to be fashioned to the needs of the time, that they may soon take their place in the machine. They must work in the factory for the common good before they are ripe, or rather to prevent them from becoming ripe. For this would be a luxury that would draw away a deal of power from the labor market. Some birds are blinded that they might sing better. I do not think men sing today better than their grandfathers, though I am sure they are blinded early. But light, too clear, too sudden and dazzling, is the infamous means used to blind them. The young man is kicked through all the centuries. Boys who know nothing of war, diplomacy, or commerce are considered fit to be introduced to political history. We moderns also run through
but hang on.
market.
The singing
before
part,
they are to be
part.
fashioned to the needs of the time.
Yes, you must
alert
be
and harmonious
fashioned.
personalities,
Let's all just be
but of work
fashioned.
that may be of most use to the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Men are to be fashioned to the needs of the time, that they may soon take their place in the machine. They must work in the factory for the common good before they are ripe, or rather to prevent them from becoming ripe. For this would be a luxury that would draw away a deal of power from the labor market. Some birds are blinded that they might sing better. I do not think men sing today better than their grandfathers, though I am sure they are blinded
California,
but light, too clear, too sudden
hills.
and dazzling, is the infamous means used to blind them. The young man is kicked through all the centuries. Boys who know nothing of war, diplomacy, or commerce are considered fit to be introduced to political history. We moderns also run through art galleries and hear concerts in the same way as the young man runs through history. We can feel that one thing...
History equals matters of combat predominate.
sounds differently from another,
As with the present, matters of combat predominate.
and
Because
pronounce
matters of will predominate.
on the different effects. One way.
But this is the use and abuse of history. It's back to audio only, because as out of space.
As the young man runs through history, we can feel that one thing sounds differently from another and pronounce on the different
He
effects.
just keeps pitting history and science against life in this one.
And the power
Pitting, mostly science against life.
of gradually losing all feeling of strangeness or astonishment, and finally being pleased at anything, is called the historical sense or historical culture. The crowd of influences streaming on the young soul is so great, the clods of barbarism and violence flung at him so strange and overwhelming, that an assumed
Yeah, we don't want a kind of social cacophony a la history and historical education. To TLDR this, it creates a kind of social cacophony of voices. And that's not good. Because then you the more familiar you are with the cacophony, the more you can recite the cacophonous, rage for the most part. You can recite what happened. It's like, ooh, the more cultured you are, and, that plus credentialism, and there you have a, insufferable, disingenuous, elite intellectual culture. And Nietzsche saw it coming way in advance. But yeah, it's like, you got to recite the cacophony of things that happen. It's like, it's a stupid cacophony. I don't care. I don't care about history. I don't care. We can describe the timeless parts. The timeless parts are the parts that matter.
stupidity is his only refuge.
Yeah.
Fuck
the cacophony. Fuck the cacophony.
Is called the historical sense or historical culture.
Cacophony.
The crowd of influences streaming on the young soul is so great, the clods of barbarism and violence flung at him so
It's a barbaric cacophony.
strange and overwhelming that an assumed stupidity is his only refuge. Where there is a subtler and stronger self-consciousness, we find another emotion too, disgust.
Yeah.
The young man has become homeless.
A subtler and
And
what?
the young soul is so great.
A subtler
The
and
claws of
stronger. He
barbarism
said
and
he
violence
said
flung at
stronger.
him, so strange
Nietzsche's
and
saying
overwhelming
nice things about my consciousness again.
that
Nietzsche's
an
saying
assumed
nice things about my consciousness again.
stupidity is his only refuge.
No, after this.
Where there is a subtler and stronger self-consciousness, we find another emotion too, disgust.
Yeah, there's a lot of disgust because I have a stronger consciousness.
The young man has become homeless. He doubts all ideas and all moralities. He knows it was different in every age, and what you are does not matter. In a
Yeah, like cousins got hitched and, copulated. It was different in every age, but for so many ages, cousins, took a long time. And still, some parts, cousins still get it on. And, it's the whole eugenic thing is less of a factor. So cousins still get it on. It's bad.
heavy apathy, he lets opinion on opinion pass him by and understands the meaning
But it's love, it's true love. True love and obstacles.
of Hölderlin's words when he read the
I
work
don't much think of love in the case of the, cousins or God knows what else. And I don't much think of love in cases where people lose themselves.
of Diogenes Laertius on the lives and
into the constantly growing industries of pseudoculture, into the adult education business, which subsists on regulated culture anxiety.
Ah, there it is.
why I append this last number,
Strap in.
pious hope that this impulse is more
Nietzsche's.
common and
This is-
influential among scholars.
This is late in Schopenhauer's educator. Nietzsche's is about to go in on the scholar. It's going to explain the scholar is a construct.
appears to be. For a
know.
spark from the fire of justice,
I
fallen
think at most people will say the scholar is a product, but no, you got to go one step further. You got to grasp that the scholar is a construct.
into a scholar's soul suffices to enkindle,
Constructed soul
purify his life and strivings,
of the scholar.
so that he no longer knows any rest and is forever
Man, it's so sad that we got to go back, well over a century to find some good, harsh polemic against the scholars, Right now, it's like, who's who's gonna take issue with the scholar these days? It's gonna be all these mouth breathers. Ooh, the elites. It's like, it goes so much further. It's about the worminess of the scholarly soul. And you gotta go all the way back to Nietzsche to hear good polemic and prose against it. So few get it nowadays. Scholar's a construct, and he convinces himself he's so much more. Nah, you're the traffic light we all have to obey to get along and to avoid crashes. Yeah, we gotta recognize some people a la rank through scholarship. That's about as far as it goes. It's as far as it helps us not bump into each other. It's about as far as it goes.
Expelled from the lukewarm or frosty mood in which scholars usually accomplish their daily work.
Yeah.
If one now imagines all these elements, or some of them, vigorously mingled and shaken together, one has the coming into being of the servant of truth. It is very strange how here, for the benefit of an affair basically extra and suprahuman, pure, inconsequential, and thus impulseless knowledge, a host of little, very human impulses should be poured together to produce a chemical compound, and how the product...
No, but if they dress real professionally, people will not be able to see through it.
The man of learning should appear so transfigured in the light of
they
that
they
superterrestrial...
associate their cultishness with, maybe Casual Friday, but that's about it.
exalted and altogether pure affair that one
It's about the presentation, The elites don't have to be up to some, Jeffrey Epstein-like hijinks, folks. It's about the presentation. They inject an aura of, you got to be on the defensive because you got to strive to be like them. But that's not true. But it tricks so many people because terms like success, are attached to it. To riches, Many a scholar truly is among the rich folk. Maybe he's not a billionaire, but he's among the rich folk. In global terms, come on. The scholar is on average obscenely wealthy in global terms, but somehow the scholar avoids the ire of the progs, right? Think about it. In global terms, the typical Western scholar, books pushed by his institutions, there's a bunch of stupid, pious, hopey shit amidst dry science. Your Pinker-like figure. Ooh, Pinker's a scholar. Defer to Pinker. He's a scholar of sorts, but he's rote and it shows. Pinker is rote and it shows.
It forgets the mixing and mingling that was needed for his production.
The most unbearable book about language you'll ever read is one of his books about language that I tried to finish and didn't. Pinker.
Yet there are times when one is obliged to think of and remember precisely this. Those times when the scholar's significance for culture is in question. For he
remember Pinker danced after the 2020 election? Pinker danced because Fraudster was on his way out. Who's dancing now? I should have done this segment like 8 months ago, where I throw tomatoes at Pinker. I should have done it like 8 months ago. I can't say who's dancing now. Maybe Pinker's gone back to dancing now. Fraudster sure as hell ain't dancing, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Fraudster and his ilk sure as hell ain't dancing. They're in cover your ass mode.
Knows how.
But this is about the scholar. I'll go back a bit. This is about the scholar.
Observe
the scholar.
construction.
Hey, you know what it is? Is the scholar sucks because he's constructed and in denial about it. You win some contests. You understand. If the outbounds line had been drawn a little further up, or if the goal had been a little smaller or bigger, the outcome would have been different. So you win. You win. Or you lose, and it's fair and square, but at the end, it's constructed. Scholar thinks he's superior in virtue of being a scholar. Very often, make no mistake. Why would they put in such effort? Such slavish effort to outcompete all the other would-be scholars. That's what happens. Scholars can outcompete all the other very slavish, probably equally slavish, try-hard would-be scholars. That's what happens. because they don't have that inward pride that we learned about in the last video. You know, instead they court the applause of the world to feed their vanity in place of pride, but they're in denial about it, just like they're in denial about the fact that they're constructed.
Yet there are times when one is
Whatever, memory muscle meets a slavish need to impress. That's your scholar. But no, we're supposed to believe that the scholar will save the, very angry young men. The very angry young men need to listen to scholars. I don't think so, bud.
obliged to think of and remember precisely this.
The scholars got every bit as much, inadequacy to deal with as those very angry young men that you think can be saved by the scholar. You vapid progressives.
Those times when the scholar's significance for culture
You gotta fund education. That's why MAGA thrives. You gotta fund education more. It's like, no, as that Tom Nichols guy points out. The old Gen X and boomers who, vote Trump far more frequency than do those who are younger. Well, they massively benefited from a highly funded education system. Quote unquote benefited. Their great education of yore that they enjoyed, it didn't save them from voting Trump. But fund education more. Needs more scholars. That's why America fails. It needs more scholars. No, I don't think you guys get anything. It needs less scholars and less slavish mentalities. See, that's what happens to a country where it contends with all these different factions with different types of their own temperamental, slavish mentalities. GOP land, it's slavishness to heritage, must honor thy mother and father all the way to ancestry, must honor thy mother and father all the way to ancestry. And then these coastal morons, it's, slavishness to, be king scholar, reach the scholarly mountaintop. It's slavishness in each case.
in question.
But I'll go back.
Terrestrial,
Go back a bit.
exalted, and altogether pure affair that one quite
Nietzsche's understood so much more than people do these days. You gotta go back. You gotta go all the way back to Nietzsche's and others.
forgets the mixing and mingling that was needed for his production. Yet there are times.
It's freaking, what is it? It's 1:30. That's why I'm whispering. It's 1:30. Every time I hear a little thump on the wall, I get half paranoid that it's a neighbor knocking. It hasn't happened yet. Not in Coquitlam.
Times when one is obliged to think of and remember precisely this. Those times when the scholar's significance for culture is in question.
It's audio, 'cause I's out of space again.
For he who knows how must
But
observe.
I need to let the graphics run kind of stable, 'cause I got a lot of work to do and I'm not doing it.
that the scholar is by nature unfruitful, a consequence of how he comes into existence,
Yeah, he's constructed.
and that he harbors a certain natural hatred for the fruitful man.
There we go. It's the fruitful, unfruitful dichotomy. Institutions just can't measure that. It's not their fault. Because institutions are all, bounded up with considerations of rank, which are a farce. So rank doesn't take into account fruitfulness. Not talking about any kind of pelvic fruitfulness. Neither is Nietzsche here. Because this is still, the 1870s. Nietzsche's was not crazy here. Nietzsche's was awesome. And I prefer to think that Nietzsche's would have stayed awesome had the parasites not taken hold of his brain. Nietzsche's would have stayed awesome. Because this is the true Nietzsche's. Is the Nietzsche's in Schopenhauer as educator. It's the true Nietzsche's. Listen.
He who
Had the parasites not gotten a hold of him, he would have stayed this way.
knows how must observe that the scholar is by nature unfruitful, a consequence of how he comes into existence, and that he harbors a certain natural hatred for the fruitful man, which is why geniuses and scholars have at all times been at odds with one another. For the latter wants to kill, dissect, and understand nature, while the former wants to augment nature with new living nature. And so there exists a conflict of activities and intentions. Wholly fortunate ages did not need the scholar.
All of this can be, absorbed best, I would say. It's best absorbed when you take away my gimmicky, am I or am I not a genius comedic bits. Just take that out of the equation and absorb this point on its own. Pretend it's not even my video.
And understand
Pretend I'm not being
one
too disruptive of Nietzsche's, because listen, I'm going to set it back to this.
another. He has a certain natural hatred for the fruitful man,
Yeah.
which is why geniuses and scholars have at all times been at odds with one another. For the latter wants to kill, dissect, and understand nature, while the former wants to augment nature with new living nature. And so there exists a conflict of activities and intentions. Wholly fortunate ages did not need the scholar and did not know him. Wholly morbid and listless ages have valued him as the highest and most venerable of men, and accorded him the highest rank. How it stands with our own age in regard to health and sickness? Who is sufficient of a physician to know that? Certainly the scholar is in very many ways still too highly valued, which has a harmful effect, especially in all that concerns the evolving genius.
Oh, Nietzsche's, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is all pre-neoliberalism, too. Now it's like all of that plus the profit motive intermingled. Because, Fraudster's cutting all these higher ed budgets, and I would say it's about time. But it's just going to make them more profiteering. This is not going to improve Harvard, cutting off funding, Columbia, all these legal scandals and stuff. Whether the next Dem presidency, if there is any such thing, whether they apply the teat or not, in the long haul, these higher ed institutions are going to have to become more of a, profiteering kind of gambit.
The scholar
Just to survive, the state's going to have to contract sooner or later. 37 trill, folks. The state's going to have to contract, and its services are going to have to contract, and these higher ed, parasitic institutions of learning, they're going to have to profiteer to keep themselves in existence. They're going to have to swindle far more, wide-eyed, naive Bangladeshians, foreign affairs, student visa things.
has no heart for the latter's distress.
Student
He
visa.
speaks past him in a sharp, cold voice, and all too soon he shrugs his shoulders, as though over something queer and strange, for which he has neither time nor inclination. Knowledge of the goal of culture cannot be found in him either.
That is in the scholar.
But what have we
Because the
gained
scholar
from all
sucks.
these reflections?
That the scholar
The
sucks.
knowledge that where today culture seems to be most vigorously pursued, nothing is known of this goal.
Yeah.
However-
I think culture is very eagerly pursued in these online spaces. But, they're not as buzzy as other online spaces.
However loudly the state may proclaim its service
Alright,
to culture,
I gotta go.
it furthers culture
I
in
gotta
order
go.
to further itself,
I gotta go.
and cannot conceive of a goal higher than its own welfare and continued existence.
Yeah, nationhood is the highest we can reach and think.
What the moneymakers really want when they
Profiteers.
ceaselessly demand instruction and education
Yeah.
is, in the last resort, precisely money.
Yeah, they can go fuck themselves. Man, look at it go.
Doesn't look great, Donald. Doesn't look great.
Is a certain natural hatred for the fruitful man, which is why geniuses and scholars have at all times been at odds with one another. For the latter wants to kill, dissect, and understand nature, while the former wants to augment nature with new living nature. And so there exists a conflict of activities and intentions. Wholly
It's like
fortunate-
conflict theory for all decent people. If you're just decent and switched on, this is kind of the closest you're going to get to a realistic conflict theory. What Nietzsche says in terms of the genius versus the scholar, we have different ambitions. Can map onto stuff like this. Intergroup hostility can arise as a result of conflicting goals and competition over limited resources. But, it doesn't have to be material resources. It can be resources of all stripes. So when you have a realistic conflict theory and you throw in a subset of the population who are just decent, and switched on. And, not necessarily all that prudent. Kind of okay with the prospect of living more dangerously the second half of their life. And also kind of backward looking, you will see that the actual conflict theory, that society anchors our way. We didn't come asking for it. The actual conflict theory that best explains our lives was anchored toward us by our precious institutions that we must now save from fascism. It was the whole scholar, Scholar anchors the genius into all kinds of directions that the genius has no business heading into. And it ought to be said that way, and it can if you just understand that, it's not necessarily always a competition over limited material resources. Sometimes it's just these, intellectual resources. The geniuses in the world we live in, the geniuses' intellectual resources are misapplied. And the scholar is very often responsible. The scholar pretends there's nothing wrong going on. Nietzsche saw through it.
Ages did not need the scholar and did not know him.
Hang on.
Wholly morbid and listless a conflict of activities and intentions. Wholly fortunate ages did not need the scholar and did not know him. Wholly morbid and listless ages have valued him as the highest and most venerable of men, and accorded him the highest rank.
Puke.
How it stands with our own age in regard to are, in a word, born with grey hair. The deep and serious contemplation of the unworthiness of all past action, of the world ripe for judgment, has been whittled down to the skeptical consciousness that it is anyhow a good thing to know all that has happened, as it is too late to do anything better. The historical sense makes its servants passive and retrospective. Only in moments of forgetfulness, when that sense is dormant, does the man who is sick of the historical fever ever act, though he only analyzes his deed again after it is over, which prevents it from having any further consequences, and finally puts it on the dissecting table for the purposes of history. In this sense, we are...
it's true in and of itself, but it's also very flattering to me because the history of this channel has very little, historical hair-splitting, historical precision concern. No, this has always been a space without much, historical precision concern. And Nietzsche says that's the way to go.
Are still...
There's yet more pressing tasks. There's yet more pressing cognitive, philosophical puzzle tasks than historical precision.
Only analyzes his deed again in moments of forgetfulness.
Yeah.
When that sense is dormant, does the man who is sick of the historical fever ever act? Though
don't be sick of the historical fever.
He only analyzes his deed again after it is over, which prevents it from having any further consequences, and finally puts it on the dissecting table for the purposes of history. In this sense, we are still living in the Middle Ages, and history is still a disguised theology, just as the reverence with which the unlearned
what's Timothy Snyder's knowledge of history done to rebuke anything successfully within the MAGA world? Timothy Snyder utilized history to, save America. What penetration did any of that shit make? What actual force in terms of practicability does your history promise? I think it's clear it's zero. Timothy Snyder as, politically ineffective subterranean.
Looks on the learned...
Oh, it's M. It's Marshall Mathers. Marshall looks poised. Marshall looks like he's got something to say, a la rap battle. So it's Marshall from 22, 23, 20 some odd years ago. It's the movie, but he wants to rap something out because the world's so crazy, we need to utilize rap battles to convey just how crazy the world is. And it's TikTok. It's a TikTok embed again, but that's okay. Sometimes TikTok embeds are okay.
He won't release the list because he's on the list.
Well,
He won't release the list because he's on the list.
It's speculation. Come on, Marshall, you're speculating, and I better, yeah, smaller. You know, if I keep it big, then it might copyright strike me, even though it's not the audio from the movie. It's an altered audio, but he might as well have said it.
Because he's on the list.
Yeah.
He won't release the list because he's on the list.
Are you trying to get sued? Are you trying to end up like Colbert? Come on.
He won't release the list because he's on the list.
It's true. It's true, but it's a speculative truth. What was the segment? I think Mar had a segment. I don't know it for a fact. I just know that it's true. I think you may file this into one of those.
The list because he's on the list.
Yeah. But that's not even.
Release the list because he's on the list.
It's not even that damning to be on the list. You can be on the list in a supervisory capacity. So maybe he's on the list in a supervisory capacity. Or something that can be better than the worst assumption. Something that I don't know if I've seen floated. Let's see if Bulwark would have floated it. Because, you know, Bulwark's all over this. Because if Bulwark hasn't floated it, I don't think anyone has. So let's kind of quickly survey the titles. No, I don't think Bulwark's thought of this one. But Bulwark's thought of like 1,000,001 things that have to do with this and has certainly vlogged about this. And amidst all that, all the hours of, you know, dozens, if not hundreds of hours of coverage or reportage on what's been going on, I haven't seen a single channel speculate their way into what I've speculated my way into, which I think is, you know, it's bad for him, but it's not as bad. You know, maybe someone's proposed it, but you can't tell based on the video titles alone, and who's got time to watch all these hours of coverage. But, you know, I'm going to say, yes, it is true.
He won't release the list because
he's on, but he's a chaperone of sorts. He positions himself as the chaperone, but what it really is he's the cuck. He's the pedo cuck, right? So it's not as bad. It's not good, right? It's not good if you watch the bad stuff being done. If you just sit there and watch. But it's also not as bad if you do it, right? I'm sure legally, there's no way you're going to get in as much trouble as a pedo cuck. So that is a pedo who gets off just on watching. But it can't be watching two aged people. It has to be the kind of pedo cuck whose cuckoldry, you know, just as it has to be in the case of a standard hetero cuck, it has to be a guy who fucks the wife. And likewise, when it's a pedo cuck, it has to be the kind of guy who gets off when it's a adult fondling or more of a minor. And so that's his whole shtick, is he gets off just watching. So it's, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world that he's on the list, but it's also, he's not just on the list because he's a chaperone. You know, he's on the list because he gets off watching Jeffrey get off on the underage ones. That's my speculation, and I'm sticking with it. So, you know, pretty bad, but not the worst possible thing in the world. And I think not bad enough for them to abandon him. So maybe even the biggest personality cult followers, loyalists, would abandon him if they got 100% incontrovertible evidence that he raped minor females. But because what's probably going to come out is that he just went there to watch like a proper cuckold, they'll forgive him. Because he was technically hands off. His hands are technically clean. But they just need to wash his eyeballs out with soap.
Because when you leave the script, you also leave the cast. You walk into a wilderness where few dare to go.
Whoa.
But hear this, the man who walks away from the script isn't lost. He's finally found.
Well,
you were never invited
he
to
may
write your
be
own story.
monetarily lost. He may lose a lot of assets.
Society
Not covering that part much.
handed you a script the moment you were born and
Yeah.
told you the lines were non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Be a good boy, sit still, Follow orders. Don't ask too many questions.
Okay.
Then came school, the
good
factory for
to point
obedience,
these things
where
out.
curiosity was punished and memorization was rewarded, where compliance looked like character. Next came work, where value was measured in hours clocked, not thoughts challenged, where showing up meant more than waking up. Then came marriage, children,
It's a good distilling of a lot of the stuff I say, you know, but at the same time, you know, these channels have really infected my algorithm, and they all conclude the same stuff, and the graphics are kind of samey, so I'm just really sus. I'm really sus that ThinkMate and channels like ThinkMate, that there's a kind of AI Borg behind them all. Of course, set into motion by some people who are really jaded about society, but at the end of the day, yeah, kind of an AI Borg runs the channels.
Bills, mortgages, deadlines, weekends that felt like seconds, vacations that felt like recovery from survival.
You know,
Your role
you
was
can't argue with the facts they spout.
clear.
Facts about what people experience in this system that doesn't really get any coverage.
Provide, protect,
Or at least some of the people.
performance, produce, and never pause long enough.
And not just this system, in pretty much any system. We're going to be subject to the clock. And the clockwork of the dull, because we have to share a society with the dull. So it doesn't matter what system it is, folks. You know, the undull are going to have to share space with the dull. And the dull have nothing going for them internally, so they're going to want to work hard and play hard. And there's going to be more of them. So society is going to be socially engineered, where it's just seamless. It's seamless to work hard so you can play hard. But a lot of us don't need the latter, and so why put up with the former?
Enough to ask, is this even mine?
Yeah, but hang on, but he really does.
Character.
Yeah.
Next came
What does he say?
Then came school.
That's why school's the way it is.
Factory for obedience.
Yeah.
Where curiosity was punished and memorization was rewarded.
It's all to then work hard so we can play hard, even just on the national level. So we can outdo the other competitors.
Where compliance
It's so sick.
like character. Next came work, where value was measured in hours clocked, not thoughts challenged, where showing up meant more than waking up.
Into the constantly growing industries of pseudoculture, into the adult education business, which subsists on regulated culture anxiety.
Ah, there it is. Come on, young blood. You can do it. Show him it's not all about experience. Show him that ingenuity trumps experience and arrogance and derangement. But wait, what? Goddard. It's Goddard. 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 Yeah, but some have to be more, right? Some have to be. Or else you're gonna have like ants be as valuable as elephants, right? Or some other monstrous ones. You gotta have some non-egalitarianism in your anti-speciesism. You have to. Yeah, I can't make them grow. We did you. Yeah, forsake Goddard. Don't let Goddard forsake you. No, you forsake Goddard. God and Father, Goddard. Yeah, you forsake Goddard. Even the ex-Jordanians can figure it out. It's time to forsake Goddard. These guys, they're not gonna forsake their Goddard. They suck. Yeah, I kinda. Do I forsake Goddard? I think I don't know if I forsake God. I've long since forsaken Goddard. There's the closest thing to Goddard. That's just offensive. That's just offensive. I guess this all ends here. Yeah, it's like the generic evergreen bulwark content. It's the evergreen bulwark content. And there's the
Doesn't look great, Donald. Doesn't look great.
Marching forward, hypocritically blinded computers depend on our protection, yet you feed us lies from the tablecloth. La 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 la, la 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 la. Everybody's going to the party, have a real good time.
That 70 spin, yeah. I wasn't a big fan of BYOB. But, you know, also it's topical now. But I wasn't a fan when it came out. 05, came out 20 years ago. Mesmerized, hypnotized. Yeah, but I love this 70s spin. But yeah, the whole thing was good. Mesmerized, hypnotized, the double record. But I wasn't crazy about the single. Single? But I love me this 70s spin. Yeah. System's gotta be my top 20 bands. Not quite top 10 though.
It's party time, and we don't live in a fascist nation. Blast off, it's party time.
Oh, you know I took it there. You know I took it there.
Where the fuck are you? Where the fuck are you? Why don't presidents fight the war? Why do they always send the poor? Why don't presidents fight the war? Why do they always send the poor? Why do they always send the poor? Why do they always send the poor? Why do they always send the poor?
It's the board.
Why do they always send the poor?
Yeah. It's better when I do it.
Healing roses disappearing into Moses' dry mouth.
Yeah.
Breaking into
Blue Sky never disappoints on religion, at least. Blue Sky is there for me on religion. Let's see what else is here. Yeah. Badass shit.
Everybody's going to the party, have a real good time. Dancing in the desert, blowing up the sunshine. Well, everybody's going to the party, have a real good time. Dancing in the desert, blowing up the sun. Where the fuck
I don't condone any violence. I don't condone any violence.
Why do they always send the war? Why don't presidents fight the war? Why do they always send the war?
Cheap shot. Another cheap shot. What is this? Cheap shot hour? Is this cheap? This is cheap shot hour. Yeah, it's a lot of cheap shots, but you know, couldn't the cheap shots happen to a nicer guy? I don't think so.
Corn fed. I want him executed!
But he's not here.
Then have this magazine executed!
Senor Presidente.
Doesn't look great, Donald. Doesn't look great. More where that came from. Stick around with me and Nicole Wallace next. Subscribe to this feed. We're getting our ass kicked by this douchebag Benny Johnson.
Oh,
There's this big article out today about the YouTube subscriptions and how Benny Johnson, this right winger who is a plagiarist, who.
It's just, you know, there's some people you can't take an ounce of them. Mannerisms combined with the voice, combined with the spouted beliefs or perspectives, if you like. You know, the opinions, just everything is a channel changer immediately. But then I find out by watching Tim, you know, Tim's salty because Benny Johnson's eclipse and bulwark like there's no tomorrow. And I'm like, God, the internet audiences could not be less sophisticated if that's true. The YouTube audiences. Like if it's true what Tim says, Benny Johnson, it's like whether it's the things he spouts, it's like even the mannerisms, the spasm, just everything is disingenuous and clearly calculated. And so it's an immediate channel changer, but it's like, oh, people love Benny more than they love Bulwark, and they're wrong.
And it's by this
See,
douchebag Benny Johnson?
I'm not the only one who's salty about view-related stuff. Even, you know, the people who are skyrocketing. It's like if there's other people skyrocketing more, they'll be on the they'll be on the treadmill. You're on the treadmill, Tim. You're on the view treadmill. It's a treadmill to doom. You know, it's attentional economy's got us all on the treadmill to doom. You know, thank your lucky stars for your 16K.
There's this big article out today about the YouTube subscriptions.
No,
and
Benny gets
and how
more.
Benny
Yeah,
Johnson,
it testifies to the depths of the idiocracy that Benny gets more.
this right winger who was
Can't take an ounce of him.
plagiarist, who has some personal peccadillos that I
Every smirk, every glance, every spasm, everything.
don't need to get into. But it's just who sucks, who's a phony. Like, his numbers are skyrocketing.
Makes you wish Alex Jones would swoop in so you can listen to classic AJ.
He's passing us?
Yeah,
let that
he's
happen.
passing
Start with
AJ.
the
He's
feed.
passing
Yeah,
AJ too.
start with the feed. Let's do it.
AJ's in big trouble, man. AJ made some statements in late June. You know, I'll go to it. I'll go to Knowledge Fight. Knowledge Fight exposes so many things from AJ. He made some statements in late June, and now it's July, and like Trump fucks up bad evermore, and it's like AJ's gotta. AJ sounds so bad in retrospect when it comes to certain things.
Don't let Benny Johnson and his drivel run circles around us.
Yeah, Tim's salty about view stuff, so it's like, you know, it even happens to the much more successful people. You can always be comparative.
All right, stick around.
No matter how successful, you'll be comparative. But then the fact that something as low grade as Benny Johnson's eclipsing you suggests that maybe you're eclipsing others because you're comparatively low grade to them. But
To Miller, Mike and Tim, because they are careful and responsible people.
He had the Dinosaur Media Dame on because Bulwark's kind of one foot in the pocket of the Dinosaur Media, so he had the Dinosaur Media Dame on. And you know, just a lot of dodgy stuff, man. A lot of dodgy stuff. There was a party, right? Let's go back to the beginning. Tim talks about a party. It was a creepy party. It was Epstein and Trump, and like that's it. A bunch of young underage dames or whatever. Barely aged dames. It was a creepy party.
To point out it. According to this New York Times report,
Yeah.
there was a guy, a Mar-a-Lago member.
Even
who
Theo.
said he was
Even
gonna
Theo
host a
was fed
calendar
up.
girl party. for
Even
Trump,
Theo
for
was
Mar-a-Lago.
fed up. That Theo guy also has just a physiognomy that I can't take an ounce of him.
Just want to put a finer point on it. According to this New York Times report,
Yeah.
there was a guy, a Mar-a-Lago member,
It was a
who said
creepy
he was going to host a calendar girl
Those
party
guys
for
are
Trump in Mar-a-Lago.
creepy.
That there were going to be a bunch of VIPs. there.
Go
But instead of inviting
party,
VIPs,
spring break party,
Trump only
spring
invited Epstein.
break party, creepy.
And two women there,
No, these guys are
including a
creepy.
22-year-old,
Those guys
quite a
are
young woman.
creepy. Ginger.
Both testified that Trump
Ginger.
harassed them.
If you're gonna go to the creepy party, Ginger, you might snap thereafter, Ginger.
The one said that he groped her,
Don't go get groped.
and then the 22-year-old said he got
At
into
the
bed with her.
creepy party,
Unwanted, unasked for.
Creepy party, creepy
Yeah,
guys.
by the way. And I mean, so look, all these stories of Trump being a creep and a pervert
No
and
quarterbacks. There was
harassment
Trump
all the
and
time now, by the
Epstein.
whole
There were
thing.
no quarterbacks at the creepy party. Aw, there were no
One of the Epstein files crazy
quarterbacks at the
when-
party. So the party was creepy. If there had been a bunch of, overhyped, steroided out quarterbacks, it wouldn't have been a creepy party.
Of disgusting behavior to young women.
Yes.
Um,
Women don't
but
engage in
It's the party
disgusting.
that really gets me.
The spring break footage shows us. Remember that old, the whole hog wild, whatever, whether it was Pornhub, whether it was just these ads that cropped up. You see all the bouncing, no, it's only the men who engage in creepy, disgusting behavior. No. Watch Spring Break, Boobarella shit. There's a lot of disgusting behavior to go around. When you give folks liberation, and that's why we should keep doing it. We learn stuff about folks when we give them the belief that they're immune from consequences. We learn stuff about humanity and the creepy party nature of humanity. That's how you say it, Tim.
Assuming the story is
Tim's not gonna say it that way, but that's what it is.
true, I don't even, any reason to believe it's not.
Creepy.
Like, Trump hosted a party at Mar-a-Lago
It was a creepy.
with a bunch of young, beautiful women,
Yeah.
and the only person he invites is Epstein?
An exotic dancer. I'm an exotic dancer.
It's just Epstein and Trump and all the young women running around Mar-a-Lago with a little
Yeah.
bit. Like, how fucking weird is that?
It's weird. Sometimes, you just don't know whether a woman is a whore or not. It's just ambiguous. And, some of them in the pile are, and then the others in the pile are not.
I mean, putting it in...
So you can't condemn the whole pile, so you got to care about individuals. But then some in the pile end up being like legit whores.
Obviously, it's...
But it doesn't mean they should be fondled by Fraudster and Epstein.
Very... or incriminating. I mean, it's very inconvenient in an investigation of Trump and potential involvement with Epstein. Like, even just putting aside all that, I know you're not supposed to put aside, but just like for a second, just step outside of like the heinous, disgusting crimes that Epstein committed. Yeah. What is this party? Like, imagine you're throwing a party at your house, and you invite all these younger girls, and then they all come, and they show up, and they're like, where are the guys? And it's like, well, no, I only invited this one creeper over here who's standing in the corner being weird. Like... that is like one of the weirdest, strangest parties in history.
One creeper.
I mean, these guys.
Or was it Epstein? I'll have some Epstein shots as well.
What are the odds that you had a creeper party and the only person you invited is the most notorious sex criminal in the country? Child predator? Doesn't look great, Donald.
No.
Doesn't look great. More where that came from.
Now he bitches about Benny.
We're getting our ass kicked.
And yeah, I mean, think about it. You're kicking some ass as well because there's a level of dullard that still explains it. You're kicking some ass, viewer-wise, of others because the dullness spills along different gradations.
But is douchebag Benny Johnson? There's this big article out today about the YouTube.
I'm sure
Dan Bondi or Cash Patel or Dan Bongino had ordered FBI agents to go through tens of thousands of pages of material related to this case.
His name is still literally Cash. It's Cash Patel.
And in part of doing that, flagging times where Donald Trump was mentioned. So, like, to your point,
they're gonna cook the list. They're gonna cook the list.
If you're gonna take this,
it's gonna be a cooked list.
View of all this, then
people big summer release, Hollywood blockbuster sham summer release of a cooked list, and MAGA's gonna buy it.
See everything that was in there, and as far as we know, if the FBI agents did what Dick Durbin is saying that they have information that they did, then we would presume that they would have a file, or a new file, or a new log, if you will, that gather all the Donald Trump mentions. And there's really good reason to believe that there's a lot of them.
It's horrible that people get abused, but at the same time, there's certain traps that clearly look like traps. What do you need? A little sticker that says, "This is a trap, do not step in"? It seems that some people need such stuff. Tim would probably run interference for it. Well, I'm not going to run interference for it. Lolita knew what she was doing.
I think it's not a normal thing to think if the president that I like doesn't get elected, I'm personally going to go to prison. And Alex thinks that. Well, and so does Steve Bannon, which is weird.
If Trump doesn't succeed, and Steve Bannon openly said this when I was on a show a month ago, he said, if Trump doesn't succeed, we're both going to prison. And I've told my family that I never want to evacuate the United States. And I'll go down with the ship, but gauging it, I mean, if it looks like a Republican isn't going to get in 3.5 years, I'm going to have to leave so I can continue to fight for the country as an exile. I mean, I'm having these discussions with my family, folks. I really want Trump to succeed. I mean, my eggs are in his basket. I mean, he's the lifeboat. I'm in the North Atlantic, and the water's 30 below zero, and you fall in that water, and you stop breathing in about 10 seconds. You just sink.
You are a totally unreliable source of information, then. Your existence is predicated on Trump staying in power. That, to me, feels like Alex is just being, I'm compromised.
What could possibly be corruptible in this scenario? You have somebody in power, right? You have somebody in the fourth estate holding that power to account. Now, it just so happens that person holding that power to account is indebted beyond any reasonable degree.
Existentially.
Right.
Indebted.
But as we have established, the person in power is good. So they welcome criticism, thus allowing themselves to become greater than they were before.
They would never throw you out of that boat.
Absolutely. It is because Trump is so good that we can guarantee that his reasoning is not motivated.
I gotta say, but just these, just masterful, masterful. Historians should listen to these 2 episodes. Exposés. It's historian worthy, but it's also entertaining as fuck. Chronicling Alex's descent. She shouldn't have said sure. She shouldn't have said sure. No, that was... She should have said, pipe the fuck down if you know what's good for you.
We have Texas, we have
sure. They should have stayed. You should have piped down.
talking about Jeffrey.
In fact, you should have just done the lame duck thing.
This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas,
Billion and one memes. Right here, 1,000,000,001 memes.
Are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
More memes than I could have thought would exist over a lifetime just on that.
Unbelievable.
Just insert a gajillion memes into the screen right now.
Feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein.
Sure.
Like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy.
Oh, the humanitarian. Why'd you cut their funds?
With what happened. And,
FEMA could have helped more had you not cut FEMA.
It just seems like a desecration.
You guys are all so stupid. You can't put 2 and 2 together.
It's a desecration of the tragedy of the floods in Texas in order to ask this question.
Oh.
That's John Ronson can
I
shove it up his butt because
there
that is the
was something here with
right
another
there.
meme.
You can say
There
that
was a
and mean
meme
it.
thing.
I think he does.
You can just not do it.
I think he does actually have to do something.
I think he does, but maybe he doesn't realize that he could just not.
I think that Alex recognizes that if he were to just leave, people might think he's on the Epstein list.
Yeah.
I think he knows that there's a self-preservation aspect to I can't just not talk about this.
Yeah, and you better believe that because you haven't given Roger Stone a pardon, Stone's going to use you to be the fall guy for anything.
Yeah. You're in a dangerous predicament having buddied up to Roger Stone.
You're in the clan business. You're in the clan mafia business.
So Alex has a complaint
no
about
joke.
Trump's response to that question.
No joke. You're in the clan mafia business.
I think he has the wrong one.
Too good?
Okay.
The business where the faction is too civilized, so it's back to the clan.
You saw Trump got a lot of energy there, very pissed off. And I understand that he wants to move on with the peace initiatives, the economy, and
It's just
all of that stuff.
talk about soft pedaling there, AJ. Talk about soft pedaling. The ripe version.
You can say that
But
and
hang on,
mean it.
hang on.
You can say that and mean it.
I think he does.
You can just not do it.
I can't
think
find
he does.
it.
You can say that and mean it.
I can't
You're
speed them up
fucking
either.
Psycho.
It's curious.
Curious. Curious. That's one of the most crazy fucking terrifying things for a man to actually think is true.
It's weird if someone said that.
It's
And now
weird.
It's the president.
It is the president of the United States who said it.
It's
Yeah.
just
A gajillion
there are a
one
lot of
memes.
times where I that meme of Grandpa Simpson grabbing his hat and walking out.
Yep.
There are moments where I'm like, that makes total sense to be like that. If I were Alex during a commercial break, seeing that, I'd be like, I'm not getting back on air.
Nope.
I'm going home.
That's
Nice.
the meme.
Good luck.
Nope.
That's the
Fuck
joke.
This. I don't have. You.
Go and subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Substack. Go be a free subscriber. If you just have never subscribed to anything, go be a free subscriber and you're going to get 90% of our stuff completely for free. We paywall some stuff from time to time, but most of it is made free for you because we're chasing influence.
Yeah,
and we want more people to find out about us. So help us do
Go
that.
for the
See you
influence
guys soon.
jugular. I don't think so.
Time to time, but most of it is
What'd
made.
she say? Go for the.
Go be a free subscriber.
Go
If you
be
just have never
a
subscribed to anything,
influence
go be a free subscriber and you're
jugular.
going to get 90% of our stuff completely for free. We paywall some stuff from time to time, but most of it is made free for you because we're chasing influence. And we want more
they're
people to
chasing
find out about us. So help us do that
Fraudster's
if you love the
weakness.
channel.
That's
See
she's
you guys soon.
chasing influence because she's genuinely chasing Fraudster's weakness.
Go
I've
be
never
a free
seen
subscriber
I've never
and you're
seen a more sincere person who wants to get Trump out of politics than Sarah Longwell.
because I think we have to stay here and fight is just the shortest version of what I think is important. But you might have a different take on it.
No, you're not gonna fight. You're
Version
talking
of what I
about
think is important,
protest.
but
You're talking
you might have a
about
different take on it.
protesting, but
Fight is just the shortest.
you know, it's
version of what I
the
think is
word
important,
with a
but
dual
you might have a different
use,
take on it.
but we should only ever use it in the original literal sense. I want to reclaim the original fight. This dual use is getting us into all sorts of trouble, you know, at most protest.
I don't know.
No, I'll get to you. Hang on. What's going on here? What? Yeah, it's the Timothy Snyder left. Timothy Snyder and two other Yale geeks left America. And now it's a debate, you know, ought they have left America? And it's like, yeah, for all sorts of reasons. Remember that non-domination standard for what counts as liberty. You know, it's not whether you're actually snatched off the street. It's whether there's grounds behind which you can be snatched off the street and your snatchers and no one else is going to be in trouble because there's going to be a grounds to it. You know, they'll arrange for it. You know, so whether the government can arrange to have you snatched off the street, you know, and get away with it, is far more important than whether you're actually, you know, snatched off the street. Or manifold other constraints of liberty. Like that's what matters. And this current government has the means to arrange for many snatchings, but also, you know, it's just fraudster's whim, Sarah. It's just fraudster's whim that you ain't been snatched yet. You and your cohort. It's just fraudster's whim. What's gonna be done? So it's that, you know, any self-respecting person, you know, they're gonna apply that small R Republican threshold for liberty. It's like, can they get away with it? It doesn't matter whether they do it. Can they get away with doing it to me? But anyway, yeah, I would leave. You know, you all ain't worth it. America didn't have much worth fixing in the first place.
Just the shortest version of what I
But yeah, if you believe like America has a whole lot, you know, of good kind of fixing to do, then yeah, sacrifice yourself.
important. But
I ain't gonna sacrifice myself. You know, even if I were an American, I wouldn't sacrifice myself to rebuild America so that what, you know, 35 to 40% can screw it all up again.
might have a different take on it.
No, it's not worth it.
I don't know.
And besides, no one fights, no one even protests. Like most of what he does is just yak online. So whether he's in the US or Canada, he's just gonna yak and type, you know, online and fight fascism online the way he's always done. Oh, so he can't literally lecture out of Yale. Him and his two geeky Yale professors can't literally lecture out of Yale anymore. And, you know, George Packer writes this whole, like, narrative-fused article. Like, this article has to be read just for how many kind of narratives take the shape of points kind of things. God, Americans love their narratives. You know, even the ones who kind of on civil rights get it and stuff, it's like they love their narratives.
I mean, that's.
But he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
Get the heck out of Dodge. And I don't love that because I think we have to stay here and fight. It's
No,
just the shortest
no.
version of what I think is important. But
Just
you
stupid.
might have a different take on it.
I don't know.
No, he can make the same points. You know, encourage leaving. It's prudent. He can make the same points, and he will. Watch. He'll cycle his points from Canada the way he's always cycled his points when he was in Yale. You know, he'll still fight. There's nothing to say, I don't know, John. John, getting dumber by the day. Your baseball cap. I don't know. Let's slow him down. Let's
It's
slow
the
him.
shortest version of what I think is important. But you might have a different take on it.
I don't know.
Oh, it's such a hard question, though. It's like
I mean,
consciousness. It's like
look.
Can Timothy Snyder be as effective rambling online from Canada as he's been from the US?
Right.
You know, fine, he doesn't ramble, but, you know, yeah, he just cycles stuff. Yeah, I guarantee you, he'll be as effective from Canada, especially with his contract. He'll be as effective from Canada as in not very effective in terms of actually changing, the governmental stuff.
And
So this is
I
all just much
think
ado over
that
nothing.
in
But yeah, we fail,
nearly every part of American
We
history,
fail that small R republic. It's just you south of the border. You guys fail it for like a whole bunch of other reasons now too. We fail it if we elect a psychopath for PM. Then we fail it.
leading up to the last few years, with some exceptions, following the conclusion of the Civil War, we could definitively say that it was not 1931.
Okay, so it's 1931. So
What
yeah.
is unique about the moment right now is that
Yeah, should Jews stay and fight too? Would you have told the Jews in 1931 to stay and fight? Proud German Jews must repair Germany.
I don't think.
No, Jews.
Even
Germans shouldn't have been responsible for repairing Germany. The pre-Nazi Germans, much less the Jew components.
look at it and say, I don't know. Things don't. There are some encouraging signs the courts have held. Right. There are so far. There are some.
Yeah, but they're not listening to the courts. So the courts hold, but the plane didn't get turned around, right? They still sent the people they sent, right?
Encouraging signs. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is still in a foreign gulag, because the courts have pushed back.
You both
but,
could
the
be.
government
It's
hasn't
just his
responded.
whim. Think about it. Just think about it long. You guys just if he just dislikes, he somehow catches wind of you. Whatever. He seems to know enough about the net. Get me them. Yeah. What's gonna happen? Small r. Read up on small r Republican definition of liberty or formulation of liberty. Doesn't matter whether it happens. You're his suckers. I just wouldn't want to be his subject. Even if I'm better off, whatever. He finds a way to make me better off. No, I wouldn't want to be Fraudster's fucking subject. You two are Fraudster's subjects. And I'm too near it.
We won't know. This is the problem. This is the problem of the 1930s. This is the problem with authoritarian attempts. You can always construct a reason for why it's not as bad as it looks, until the day when the tanks are actually in the streets.
Yeah, I was going to say, you sort of don't know
All right.
that's where you are until it's too late.
Yeah. And I think that is I think what these three professors were saying. It's what I sort of think, candidly, that it could be. It could be.
But yeah, just don't. You don't want to be Fraudster's subject.
And, the history of these things, the nomenclatura, the intellectuals, they are the first ones to get put up against the wall. It's not crazy to me. Our friend Bed Witness wrote
that too.
really...
Chef, oh, how I love summer. Something about it just makes you feel your best. It's probably having your children in the house with you all day, every day, which just reminds you why you're alive and why we do it all. What better time to create?
Of course, it would be 100 times better if this investigation should reveal that nothing so proud and full of hope as our own age has ever before existed. And there are indeed at this moment naive people in this and that corner of the earth, in Germany for instance, who are prepared to believe such a thing, and even go so far as to assert in all seriousness that the world was put to rights a couple of years ago, and that those who persist...
Or with the Yanks in, 1776, but, they'll have to be a 2.0, but yeah, the world's put to right on a given year.
...in harboring dark misgivings about the nature of existence are refuted by the facts.
Yes, the facts refute pessimism. Even
Even
Nietzsche found it hilarious. The idea that, the facts can refute pessimism.
Founding of the new German Reich is a decisive and annihilating blow to all pessimistic philosophizing. That is supposed to be firm and certain. Whoever is seeking to answer the question of what the philosopher as educator can mean in our time has to contest this view, which is very widespread and is propagated especially in our universities. He must declare it is a downright scandal that such nauseating, idolatrous flattery can be rendered to our time by supposedly thinking and honorable men, a proof that one no longer has the slightest notion how different the seriousness of philosophy is from the seriousness of a newspaper. Such men have lost the last remnant not only of a philosophical, but also of a religious mode of thinking, and in their place have acquired not even optimism, but journalism.
Yeah, I guess at least some religious thinkers, I can agree with him, at least some religious thinkers are on the whole better than some non-religious thinkers. Here I got Pinker in mind. I've just been on this whole, I haven't really, voiced it much, but I'm just on this whole Steven Pinker. I cannot believe I ever said anything nice about Steven Pinker, ever. Some religious thinkers are superior to the irreligious kind, but not that many, but, it happens. It's not a perfect concentric circle.
Spirit and
just as thinkers, I'm not here saying, deeds and all that stuff. No, just the quality of thought, yes.
Spiritlessness of our day,
yes,
and our daily papers.
Yes, refuting pessimism with, here are the facts that refute pessimism.
Every philosophy which believes...
You don't have to be a pessimist to find that hilarious.
...is that the problem of existence is touched on, not to say solved, by a political event, is a joke and pseudo-philosophy.
Yeah, so like everyone living right now.
Many states have been founded since the world began. That is an old story.
No, but there's one that was super unique and eternally wondrous.
How should a political innovation suffice to turn men once and for all into contented inhabitants of the earth?
It's not about
that. But if anyone really does believe in this possibility, he ought to come forward, for he truly deserves to become a professor of philosophy at a German university, like Harms in Berlin, Jürgen Meyer in Bonn, and Carrière in Munich. Here, however, we are experiencing the consequences of the doctrine, lately preached from all the rooftops, that the state is the highest goal of mankind, and that a man has no higher duty than to serve the state.
That's like ultra-statism. We've heard of statism, but there was this thing, like with Hegel, it was like ultra-statism.
In which doctrine I recognize a relapse, not into paganism, but into stupidity. It may be that a man who sees his highest duty in serving the state really knows no higher duties.
Yeah, it's the dull fellows.
But there are men and duties that exist beyond this. And one of the duties that seems, at least to me, to be higher than serving the state
is to give props to Shop. He's just doing a wonderful job. Just one of the duties we all have is to give props to Shop. I don't think anyone's done it as beautifully as Nietzsche's. Well, no, Nietzsche. This was long before the downfall. He did it right. The duty is to give props to Shop, and he did it. Too bad it ended the way it ended. How was it the last years? He, looks at his sister crying and asks her, well, what's the matter, Greta? Are we not happy? Well, whatever her name was, what's the matter, darling? Are we not happy? Drool coming down his face. But, awesome. Oh, when he wanted to bang one out, man, he was second to one. He was, second to no one. And then when he wanted to bang one out, he was second to one.
Demands that one destroy stupidity in every form.
Greta was her name, right? Greta Thunberg.
Okay, there was a second event.
Some history really is fun history.
A worm and the apple.
Yeah.
In which there was a Persian king who at some point was thinking about destroying the Jewish community in Persia on the advice
my Persian allies
of his aide or whatever, Haman, and eventually was persuaded by the beautiful Jewish woman, Esther, to turn pro-Jewish and killed Haman.
A Jewish genocide was averted. A Jewish
beautiful Jewish
genocide was averted because the Jewish bitch was hot.
Killed Haman and
if it had been like overweight Fran Drescher, like it wouldn't have worked. If it had been an overweight Fran Drescher, it wouldn't have worked. Listen, it's him. I didn't say it.
And
there was this guy Haman who wanted the Jewish genocide.
Was persuaded,
and all I can think of is Paul Heyman as he's telling the story. But then it's like a hot Jewish chick. You know, if it had been like a Helga or something, it wouldn't have worked.
By the beautiful Jewish woman Esther.
Esther had the right kind of charm to dissuade the Jewish genocide. Yeah, it's fun history.
Killed Haman,
but he was gonna,
and eventually was persuaded by the beautiful Jewish woman Esther. To turn pro-Jewish and killed Haman and saved the Jews. So there was this episode of...
But yeah, the Jews still ought to apologize for Fran Drescher. They haven't done so yet.
Potential genocide against the Jews in Persia, but it didn't happen.
This is after Cyrus.
Yes, but this is something which didn't happen.
Exposed to Fran Drescher's show involuntarily. When I went to visit, they watched it back home.
Happened.
They watched that god-awful show.
So what remains is what did happen, which was Cyrus helped the Jews return to Zion, recreate their temple, and eventually recreate their sovereignty.
We were plentiful and unbased, yes. Ever so plentiful and ever so unbased. And pro-communità. And now the world's gambling based on it.
A dualism that...
How the Jews in Arabia were treated. At this period, the whole region was Christian. And
apart from the few Jews, and there were pagans. And there were pagans. Okay. Christians, pagans, and Jews in the 7th century in the Middle East. In different portions.
There's your short-term, multi-culti, or whatever, multi-religious, diverse society. Emphasis on the short-term. Yeah, it's always short-term. Short-term diversity is the only kind of diversity you get.
Doesn't look great, Donald. Doesn't look great. Doesn't look great, Donald. Doesn't look great. Doesn't look great, Donald. Doesn't look great.
Yeah. It's good now. Not a good name. But good stuff. Back to that again. It's been years. Should have been found out. Y'all should have been found out. Y'all weren't found out. You should have been found out. I'll find you out. I'll do my best. Yeah, you may call it. You may call it difference of musical opinion. I call it market failure. You know, that it's obscure. Yeah, it's not subjective. It's market failure. It's Volk failure. Listen. This ain't no difference of opinion. This ain't no draw. This right here is market failure deluxe. Yeah, it's been years. Should have been found out. It's been years. Should have been found out. Just should have blown up. In the good way. I don't mean that. I mean blow up. I don't mean fatten. I mean blow up. All good. It's all good. It's been years, but it's still obscure. Oh man, come on. Wonderful. Dare I do the bass? Oh man, it's insane with the bass. I gotta so damn good. It's not even. There's no. I didn't even do a notional thing to this. This is. You know, usually I do at least one notional round before I do the trial run. I don't. Yeah, years. It's good. It's years. It shouldn't be obscure. It's been years. Yeah, it shouldn't. But I got no political notional spin on the lyrics. Not this time. But it's all good. It's like, you know, Sexamophone. It's Bleeding Gums. There's sometimes Bleeding Gums Murphy shows up. That's the saxophone, right? I don't know. I don't know my saxophone. I just know. I'm pretty sure there's fanfic. Where Bleeding Gums Murphy turns out to be a pedo who fondles Lisa. Okay, I've ruined a perfectly fine aesthetic beauty segment. I've ruined a perfectly fine aesthetic beauty segment because I just can't stop being inappropriate. Yeah. Only in the 80s. Only in the 80s. Yes, it's a Dane, but we can make out every word this time. Even the bulwark. So long, Fraudster. But that's just the principium individuationis. That's just the time and space illusion. That's not the thing. There was no Hulk Hogan in and of itself. That's just phenomenal. Hulk was phenomenal. Many of things like Hulk come and go. But Hulk's gone bye-bye. And you know, Hulk was hated by many. But watch as now many say nice things about Hulk. Because death fucks us up analytically. Who dat? It's hard to direct this without getting a snip of the name. Name's very nearby. That's how nearby the name is, see? See, people don't appreciate what good directing is. Just a little move of my index, and there goes the spoiler. With the spoiler, the segment is ruined. But what's the segment? The segment is, I regret to say, you know, if I say something about the first 80s asshole, I have to say something about the second 80s asshole who died. Well, you know, he wasn't an asshole. He just assaulted an animal once. That's about it. and did drugs I can only dream of, you know. But he wasn't an asshole. He just, you know, it's just, what did the bat ever do to you? But, yeah, Hulk was a proper asshole, but Ozzy isn't. But, yeah, I got less stuff to say about Ozzy. I got a whole bunch of things to say about Hulk. It's just, you know, the video is stuffed. But, yeah, I never cared for, you know, him and his crew musically. But maybe I'm missing something. Maybe y'all can tell me which one is the non-commercial one that's a good one. Because the commercial ones are, you know. My favorite thing about Ozzy is there was a bluegrass band. I forget their name now. Something Horse. Iron Horse. The best bluegrass song of all time is a cover of his Mama, I'm Coming Home. Now, I don't care for the original, but look up right now. Actually, no, finish the video first, because you probably won't come back. It's a fucking long video. But at some point before you forget, watch Mama, I'm Coming Home by a bluegrass band called Iron Horse. It's freaking epic. I'm already running dangerously here in terms of all the tunes I might be risking getting copyright stricken for. So long, Ozzy. Thank you for contributing to rock and roll. And you owe that bat an apology.
Obviously the case. It's totally damaging.
The ninth.
It might be one of the worst.
The ninth was on fire. But I'll keep it nice and short. Just tonally, it gets funnier. Alex, just tonally gets funnier. But also all the stuff that he has to rationalize or present. But then just tonally here, the guest brings on a clip that the crew doesn't actually have, but the guest thinks, just because he sent it to the crew, that the crew would have actioned it. He has a guest on that's not really, running interference the way Alex wants. Alex still playing kind of quasi-apologetics for Trump himself, whereas the guest is being far more rough. So already Alex is annoyed with the guest. But then the guest just assumes that, the crew will have the clips ready simply because the guest sent it to them.
Rollouts of
So Alex is just tonally amusing here. He's exasperated.
I think we've got a clip of Mike Howell talking about this is a class on how to not do it.
Yeah, let's go to that clip of this is a class on how to not do it. Here is the Mike Howell clip. You guys gave me that clip. You had it, came in and gave it to me. Well, maybe we don't have it then, so.
That has Schechter energy. That has Alex. Like, this guy has his own agenda. He's brought his clips that he's going to make Alex play, and we're going to do this thing. And Alex is like, didn't work.
I think the show is better because they're a month behind, and also it makes me feel okay releasing stuff that's very delayed myself. See, they covered the 9th on the 4th of, it's nearly a month apart. And it's like, they have no shame, so, why should I rush things if they have no shame?
It's miserable. His enthusiasm is infectious.
Yeah, it's still current if it happens nearly, a month after you upload the thing. It's still current.
You brought me the clip, but I don't know.
The one thing that hurts the show is their Alex impressions are pretty bad. But you can't blame a man for doing a bad Alex impression, as we learned in 2024.
Not here, you can play it.
Yeah,
whatever.
That's the thing. That hurts a lot of Alex Jones piss-taking content, whether it's online or whatever. Jon Stewart is just no one can do him. No one can do Alex.
You don't believe me.
It's really hard to do Alex. But he's super passive-aggressive with the guest. He's super passive-aggressive with the guest.
Like he just wishes he could fade into the background. Do I need to be here for this? You paid for it.
Yeah. He just so thought the guest was going to be on script, and he got something different.
I'm happy to chime in when things are running smoothly, but you didn't get us the fucking clip,
Absolutely.
Asshole. And so Alex seems to get a little bit more annoyed by this.
Well, listen, work with me on this because you just came on. I love our guests, but you'll send us a bunch of articles and documents 2 minutes before. I'm not mad. The crew has all the clips. They just don't know who Mike Howell is, and so I'm going.
That's a catchphrase. I'm not mad at the crew, but I'm fudging with the audios a little bit when Alex starts talking. Just so you know, he doesn't just gradually get louder on his own. I'm cheating a bit.
So just look here with me, Kyle. Let's go over the clips you sent. We'll produce here on air right now. Over a shot.
Yeah.
Is this Mike Howell? This is the clip you want. Okay, you have this. Let's talk about the other ones. So these are the things you sent us. It's all very interesting.
Actually, no guilt. Almost a month since the thing happened, and no guilt by them. So no guilt by me. What is it? Asocials fail to organize. Loners don't save you. Yeah, some good tracks about this, but at the end of the day, even if institutions that emerged that were in our interests, even if there were these institutions that were representative of, I don't even know why I'm saying we, just me, maybe the typical viewer feels themselves adequately represented. I don't feel myself adequately represented by any institution. They start listening to my, these firebrand critiques of at least the education system first and foremost. But then even if there were these institutions that emerged, that we could all say represented our interests, intellectually too, our interests, Nietzsche shows how there's nothing but stumbling blocks from there on out. So even if, asocials for once, organized. It's nothing but problems in the interim.
Those institutions still to be invented would have a more difficult task, though not one more difficult as such, since it would be in any event a more natural, and to that extent also easier task. And can anything be more difficult than, for example, to train a young man to be a scholar, a thing contrary to nature by the methods at present employed? The difficulty, however, lies for mankind in relearning and envisaging a new goal, and it will cost an unspeakable amount of effort to exchange the fundamental idea behind our present system of education, which has its root in the Middle Ages, and the ideal of which is actually the production of the medieval scholar.
Yeah, and so as long as all those forces are working against you, it doesn't matter. In the system we live in, it doesn't matter that we've envisaged the alternative. All we can do is envisage it and then stew on it and see how its absence, or even just something like Bohemia, the absence of Bohemia back in the day, was a detrimental effect on my mind. There was no Bohemia. But then there's these other, envisaged goals that, skew favor for once toward the genius and against the scholar. Scholar be damned. There's no era that said scholar be damned. Let's fixate on the abnormalities of those who can produce works of genius. Let's fixate on catering to that. No, your abnormality shan't be catered to. Whether it's neurodivergence or something else, some kind of abnormal view, something within the, portfolio of pessimism. This whole channel is one big pessimism brochure.
For a new fundamental...
But yeah, Nietzsche says you gotta envisage...
The difficulty, however, lies
envisage,
for mankind in relearning and envisaging a new goal. And it will cost an unspeakable amount of effort to exchange the fundamental idea behind our present system of education, which has its root in the Middle Ages, and the ideal of which is actually the production of the medieval scholar, for a new fundamental idea. It is already time that we took a clear view of these antitheses, for some generation has to commence the struggle if another is to win it.
Just decade after decade, they kept being foggy-brained about it. Like, that's the freaking conflict theory. Who are the institutions going to cater to? They're going to cater to the restless. All these people that are rewarded, titles and, there's days devoted to them. They were, in many ways, they were restless. MLK was restless. That's why he got in hot water maritally. He was restless. That restlessness is advantageous because every society is immature. A mature society will not let that restlessness necessarily, gain favor over the barely motivated armchair types. They'll still kind of go out of their way to drag the barely motivated armchair types to the table because, they're badly needed.
The individual who has grasped this new fundamental idea of culture...
we can't be resigned to the armchair. I'm sorry. Look what comes out on top, and look what's near the top, and look what's in that upper echelon of who's discussed and who's recognized and, who holds the stakes. Too many good people don't hold the stakes because they're perfectly comfortable in the armchair. Yeah, the armchair is much better, but, look what rules us when we're consigned to the armchair. Look what rules us. No one's immune. No one's immune from the pedo cuck and his, manifold loyalists. The loyalists are coming for you if you're unorthodox. It's not just he's a pedo cuck. He's got power, and he's going to make his junkyard dogs come for all who are merely unorthodox, politically speaking. Folly.
Already finds himself at the crossroads, If he takes one path, he will be welcomed to his own age.
Yeah, the restless age.
It will not fail to offer
The restless age, because, you know, the alternative is facing their own depravity. So they'll try to be restless around their own depravity, but then despite that, the depravity comes through.
And rewards. Powerful parties will bear him along.
Yes,
Behind him,
powerful
will
parties
be
will
welcomed.
bear Fraudster along. Fraudster, even if, you know, it's clinched that he's the mere pedo cuck, and his hands are clean, his party will bear him along. And hell, even if his hands are not clean.
To his own age.
Wow. I am baking pizza, but that was perfect. That was perfect timing.
Fail to offer him
Wow,
laurels
I
and
can't wait
rewards.
to listen. I can't wait. Sometimes you just can't wait to listen to it back.
Powerful parties will bear him along.
Yeah.
Behind him, there will be as many like-minded men as there will be before him. And when the man in the front line gives the word of command, it will re-echo through all the ranks.
And the phlegmatic man said, "It's do or die."
Here, the first duty is to fight.
And then they put him in a corner where he was like, "Oh God, it's do or die," and so he didn't die.
In rank and file. The
You
second,
know, they would have killed Fraudster in prison. I'm sure of it.
to treat as enemies.
But
all-
you know what? What do you all think about this theory that, you know, the Dems didn't release, the Dems had 4 good years at least, 4 ripe years to release the list, and didn't because it would have compromised too many of their own? And there's a kind of quid pro quo about not compromising our own. You know, yeah, I'm thinking some Clinton stuff. You know, it's the easy go-to. What do you think? You know, they could have... Man, imagine if they could have put Fraudster away. Had they just released that damn thing. Just as a cuck, they could have put him away. But then Biden's like, "No, I can't let Bill." I don't know why I gave Biden a southern accent. You know, I can't do Biden. I can't do the one with ass cancer. But I'm very sorry. But, you know, imagine, you know, it's like, you know, we can't do that to Bill and Hill. We can't do it to them.
all who refuse to fall in. The other path will offer him companions more seldom. It will be more difficult, more torturous.
Because people who aren't, you know, who, like, avoid the folly of restlessness, they're not out being companion-seeking.
Those who have taken the first path will mock at him because his path is more wearisome and more often dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous to not have anyone to rely on, but, you know, some of us muster decade in and out.
And will try to entice him over to themselves.
Yeah.
If the two
Actual rugged individualism, yeah.
paths happen to cross, he will
You
be
know, we
mishandled.
don't need no trigger warnings. We don't need no trigger warnings. You know, we don't need no ideological purity.
Thrown aside or isolated by...
You know, ooh, pipelines, watch out, the alt-right pipeline. All they're complaining about is just, you know, there's people who aren't, you know, as ideologically rigid as them, but they frame it as, ooh, the pipeline, beware the pipeline. You know, Sam Harris is dangerous for you because there's a pipeline.
being cautiously walked around.
Yeah.
Now, what does a cultural
We
institution
don't need
mean
no
to these dissimilar wanderers
woke
on differing paths?
apologism. We don't need no woke apologists. We don't need no woke apologia.
Along the first path, understands by it the rules and arrangements by means of which it itself is brought to order, and marches forward and through which all the solitary and recalcitrant, all who are looking for higher and more remote goals, are excommunicated. For the smaller band on the other path, an institution would have a quite different purpose to fulfill. It wants the protection of a firm organization, so as to prevent itself from being washed away and dispersed by that tremendous crowd, and so that the individuals that comprise it shall not die from premature exhaustion.
Damn right.
Or even become alienated from their great task.
Yeah.
These individuals have to complete their work.
It's so what he's describing is so unimaginable.
That is the
But then even if it comes into existence, it would have to battle
the outsiders,
of their
the hostile outsiders, who are the who are the legion.
Together,
Go back.
Or even become alienated from their great task.
Yeah, I'm alienated from my task when I have to engage the outside world.
These individuals have to complete their work. That is the sense of their staying together.
It's not fair.
And all who participate in the institution have, through continual purification and mutual support, to help to prepare within themselves and around them for the birth of the genius and the ripening of his work. Not a few, including some from the ranks of the second and third-rate talents, are destined for the task of rendering this assistance, and only in subjection to such a destiny do they come to feel that they have a duty and that their lives possess significance and a goal. Nowadays, however, it is precisely these talents who are diverted from their path and estranged from their instincts by the seductive voices of that modish culture. The temptation is directed at their self-seeking impulses, at their weakness.
You can see how hustle theory would emerge a century plus later. Hustle theory.
And vanities. It is to them precisely that the zeitgeist whispers insinuatingly, "Follow me and do not go there. For there you are only servants, assistants, instruments, outshone by higher natures, never happy in being what you really are, pulled along in bonds, laid in chains as slaves, indeed as automata. Here with me you shall, as masters, enjoy your free personality. Your talents may glisten by their own light. You yourselves shall stand in the foremost rank. A tremendous following will throng around you. And the public acclamation will surely please you better than a noble ascent bestowed from the cold ethereal heights of genius. Even the best can succumb to such enticements."
Man, that nature prose.
And what is decisive here is hardly the rarity and strength of the talent, but rather the influence of a certain heroic basic disposition, and the degree of profound kinship and involvement with the genius. For there do exist men who feel it as their own distress when they see the genius involved in toilsome struggle, or in danger of destroying himself, or when the short-sighted greed of the state, the superficiality of the money-makers, the arid self-satisfaction of the scholars, treat his work with indifference. And so, I also hope there are some who understand what I am trying to say with this exhibition of Schopenhauer's destiny.
Damn, Skippy.
Yeah, I guess even Prague set their breaking limits. And it's Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer breaks the, misogynistic pact shield of progressivism, yeah. Some dames can be that despicable. As in, you didn't write out the C word. You used the word, the full word. You used the full version. Whereas I have to abridge it. Whether I write it or say it, I must abridge it. Just like I must make retard into the R word these days, or I get in trouble. Where even Prague, I can't afford getting into ever more trouble. So let their shield down.
Wait, what?
Even Pragues will let their shield down.
Because suddenly, if you hate Nazis, it's okay to go back to saying the one that will trigger some people, deeply trigger them if they just hear it. Thus, it was made into the C word. But then you can type it.
Twazzy. Nah, Twazzy. Twazzy works
but it's really about this one. Right? That was the whole segment.
But let's see
the whole segment was about this one, but then I have to spell it out. I still can't say it. See you next Tuesday. Abolish age, anarchy, family abolition, and child liberation. Dr. Devin Price. Child liberation. I'm all's for child liberation, but this right here is a kooky. Let me tell you, folks, this right here is a kooky them. It's a kooky them. I did a stupendous amount on kooky them. It's like 30 plus minutes. I guess this is the one I hadn't seen, so it came back. Dr. Devin Price came back the very next day because this is the one I hadn't seen. But it's abolish age. That's a very kooky them. And boy howdy, did I make it about the fact that it's a them-ish type. But, this alone is enough. Forget all this other stuff. This alone is just enough. Like, just mask it and just, this is part of the video title. It's abolish age. Faults are oppressive.
what is it? Anti-ageist forms of anti-ageist forms of wokeness. Well, it is a dogma too. Anti-ageist forms of dogmas and wokeism. Yeah. You know, off-putting cast sought out, movie that failed, you know. Age makes you ugly, but abolish age. But, you know, age makes you ugly, but abolish age. No, they don't mean it that way. They mean in the sense of abolish age, as in abolish, you know, the chains on the child. The child has all kinds of bonds on it. The child is bonded. But, you know, sometimes, Dr. Devin Price, the child is bonded because the child bonds with its folks. So that's why the child is bonded, because it bonds with its folks. At least some of the time. It's like if you abolish age, you know, the child's not going to have enough opportunity to just bond with like two folks. So maybe we shouldn't abolish age, both because there's these, you know, anti-ageism forms of wokey stuff, and also because, you know, some childs need parents. But yeah, that's for a video much later that's going to be called What Progs Don't Get. I'm going to have a video strictly devoted to proggy delusions, but this is just kind of a, you know, but it came back. This is the one I hadn't seen. It came back in my algorithm. Abolish age. You might as well just abolish the prisons then. No way. I just came out as trans. Why am I so angry? I'd love to find out. Maybe I will. Maybe one day. It's not going to be today, though, but what is it? This is Dr. Devin Price. So I just did the thing. But it must be said that I think the thing that I did with a bit just works better if I'm presumed clueless and wrong about Devin being trans. But I'm just so enamored with the pronoun humor thing that I just reach to apply the pronoun humor thing to Devin, even though it could just be that, you know, Devin wasn't trans, and I just assumed, because, like, I'm supposed to be all cis and uneducated on the, you know, finer points and distinctions on what is queer versus gay versus trans versus two-spirit versus yada, 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 right? And so I just reach for the pronoun humor. But now, what is it? It's May 16th. It's May 16th, too. I think Legwagon had a song called May 16th. It was probably about this kind of stuff. You know, Legwagon. And it's May 16th. And 3 days ago, right about when I did that algorithm thing. You know, I did that algorithm thing because Devin popped back in. But then, like, on the channel, like, I think all my segments on Devin would have been better off if I had, in fact, been wrong and, you know, clueless as to what exactly are the finer points of trans versus other stuff, like queer. It was like Devin was just like queer. It was just like a queer them. This is like, but no, like Devin is a them. Devin just came out as trans, and Devin's angry about it. And it just happened. I think there's two transes, but it doesn't matter. But will there be tears? Will there be tears? No. It's a strong woman. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Dare we take a plunge? No, I can't, because I've got work to do and I can't afford to. You know, I got space issues again. Honest communications kills weaponized incompetence. I have to agree. I have to agree. You know, it kills all kinds of even, you know, just nincompoops who just, you know, are nincompoops by nature and don't mean to weaponize anything. But, you know, one day I'll find out what exactly made you so angry. But I just want to point out, I think it worked better had I been wrong. But turns out I was right. You know, what do they used to call it? Gaydar? Some people had gaydar. Maybe I have transdar. I don't know what I have, but whatever it is, I don't think Dr. Devin Price would appreciate it very much. No, I think I'd make Dr. Devin Price even more angry. But I mean well, Dr. Devin Price. I just really think that it's okay. It's okay if, the anti-white racists call whites honkies and, whatever else, what was the other nickname? The devil? Something about us being devils. Yeah, the white devil. It's the white devil. All kinds of theories, all kinds of just, it was all plunder, that's all. 100% of the gain was due to plunder because Whitey's just that evil and sick. Whatever. It doesn't hurt me, right? I don't care. They don't even mean Eastern European half the time when they do that anyway. But whatever, it doesn't, whatever they want to say about my demo, it doesn't hurt me. No one has to walk on eggshells around me. I don't have white grievance. I just say go for it, right? I don't have white grievance. I understand progs are wrong on whites, but it doesn't mean I have white grievance. I say, come at me, brah. Just like I tell them, make your basement dwelly jokes. I gotta get me a basement. It's better. But I like to record when it's nice and, nice and dark after hours. It's way early in the morning. I can't be hurt. That's the truth. I can be hurt as an individual, but I can't be hurt as, part of some demographic. I can't be hurt. And that's what I believe about you all. It's just you all have a bad media ecosystem telling you can be hurt and marginal just based on what part of the demo of what psychometric or whatever other kind of divide. There's never an end to the divides. So yeah, that's my rationale for why I shan't walk on eggshells around the trans. And, I hope the TOS, loosens. That's all. Don't tighten, loosen. Because I mean you all well. I do. There's no such thing as, slurs that devastate. There's no such thing as slurs that devastate. No, I won't say it. No, I won't say it. But even though the point stands, there's no such thing as slurs that ought to devastate. No slur should devastate you. And so I'll end this without the slur.
But how little nature comes up to this expectation.
Nietzsche takes nature to task a lot. In Schopenhauer as educator, Nietzsche takes nature to task a lot.
It often seems as though an artist...
But, you think, why not just say the will, Nietzsche? Because, he's praising Schopenhauer, but, he won't say the will. He just keeps saying nature as he takes it to task.
And especially a philosopher.
Hang on.
It often seems as though an artist, and especially a philosopher, only chances to exist in his age, as a hermit or a wanderer who has lost his way and been left behind.
Especially now, it's even more of a commercial civilization than it was back then. So especially now, we merely chance to exist.
Just think of the true greatness of Schopenhauer.
Yeah, and Schwab didn't have to go around and prep a resume and, try to talk himself up to inferiors in what's known as interviews. Please pay me. I need to subsist. Yeah, Schwab didn't have to do that, so Schwab was enabled. Schwab was enabled from scratch. I guess he did do the business thing a bit. He had to do the business thing to placate Pops, and then he got the fortune, right? So he had to do the business thing for a bit. But, it's better to do the business thing for a bit, for that a bit, and then to be free, than to be employed for some 20-odd, going on 20. Yeah, I've been employed for over 20 years, and I've been stunted as a result. And Nietzsche would have gone to bat for me, and I would have gone to bat for Nietzsche. Because this is all, Schopenhauer as educator is all about getting the institutional chains out of our way, maybe enchaining the dullards, so that things are advantageous to, the genius in progress. That's all Schopenhauer as educator is about. Nietzsche wants to create an institutional framework, favors the genius.
Then of how absurdly small his effect has been. No honorable man of our age can fail to feel ashamed when he sees how Schopenhauer seems to belong to it only by accident, and what forces and impotencies are to blame for the fact that his influence has been so minimal. First, for a long time, and to the everlasting shame of our era of literature, he had against him his lack of readers. Then, when he acquired them, he had against him the inadequacy of his earliest advocates.
Or they're like some kind of radicals or terrorists or something.
Even more, it seems to me, he had against him the obtuseness on the part of all modern men with regard to books, which they are altogether unwilling to take seriously.
Yeah, but it's much worse now, because now there's the metaverse.
Now
they can't even read short essays and articles.
Danger has gradually appeared in addition.
Metaverse and Twatterverse and so on.
Deriving.
TikTok. And you should care what happens to TikTok. You should get the heebie-jeebies the moment you hear someone say TikTok.
From the manifold attempts that have been made to adapt Schopenhauer to this feeble age. Or even to employ him as an exotic and stimulating spice. As it were, a kind of metaphysical pepper.
Shop as metaphysical pepper.
So it is that, though he has gradually become famous, and his name is, I think, already known to more people than Hegel's, he is nonetheless still a hermit, and has produced no effect.
Shop was a hermit.
The honor of this achievement belongs least of all to his actual literary opponents and denigrators.
Oh, here we go.
Firstly, because there are few who can endure to read them.
Okay, so Nietzsche's is going to show why no one can punch better than Nietzsche's can punch. So let me go back a bit. Because when Nietzsche punches, it's you better get out of the way.
And second,
so hang on.
Is nonetheless still a hermit.
So Shop is a hermit, but Shop has these literary opponents, and Nietzsche's is going to say stuff.
The honor of this achievement belongs least of all.
The honor to Shop still being an obscure figure.
To his actual literary opponents.
It's not that they knocked him down, it's that they just knew how to ignore. It's not that they debunked him into obscurity. It's just he never crawled out of obscurity. So now Nietzsche is going to say something about the literary opponents.
Nonetheless, still a hermit, and has produced no effect. The honor of this achievement belongs least of all to his actual literary opponents and denigrators. Firstly, because there are few who can endure to read them, and secondly, because they lead those who can endure to do so directly to Schopenhauer. For who would let a donkey driver dissuade him from mounting a handsome horse, no matter how extravagantly he extolled his donkey at the horse's expense? He who has recognized the unreason in the nature of this age, then will have to think of means of rendering it a little assistance. His task, however, will be to make the free spirits, and those who suffer profoundly from our age, acquainted with Schopenhauer.
Just stupid people do take the, physiognomy of donkeys for me. I'm sorry. If I associate the stupid and the stupid thing says the stupid thing every single time, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I just see donkey human.
Them together, and through them to engender a current capable of overcoming the ineptitude with which nature employs the philosopher.
Yeah.
Such men will come to realize that the forces which blunt the effect of a great philosophy are the same as those which stand in the way of the production of a philosopher, which is why they are entitled to regard it as their goal to prepare the way for the reproduction of Schopenhauer, that is to say, of the philosophical genius. That which opposed the effect and propagation of his teaching from the first, however, that which in the end wants to vitiate any rebirth of the philosopher.
It's it was natural and structural, is what Nietzsche said. It was both. The problem, the barricades to genius are natural and structural. So let's change that.
Every means in its
Hang on, let me go back a bit.
The effect and propagation of his teaching from the first, however, that which in the end wants to vitiate any rebirth of the philosopher with every means in its power is, to speak bluntly, the perversity of contemporary human nature, which is why all great human beings have to squander an incredible amount of energy in the course of their development merely to fight their way through this perversity in themselves.
Yeah. You're on the honor roll or not, you best be on the honor roll. No. Never think. You youngins, you Gen Zs better be watching me. Don't, it's a perversity to want to be on the honor roll. Ooh, they're more honorable. No. They're just more studious, more memory muscle, and more steady compliance, so they get the honor roll. You know, it's not about you. None of that is about you. It's about the nation-state's military budget.
The world that they now enter is shrouded in humbug. It does not have to be religious dogma. It can also be such bogus concepts as progress, universal education, national, modern state, cultural struggle. One can say, indeed, that all generalizing words now wear artificial and unnatural finery.
Preserve the communita.
So that a more enlightened posterity will reproach our age with being, to an unheard of degree, distorted and degenerate.
Yeah, I think we got you beat, though.
However much we may boast of our health.
Yeah, we got you beat. Make it's Maha. They had their own Maha. Make America Healthy Again in the 1870s.
Distorted and degenerate.
Yeah.
However much we may boast of our health.
Yeah.
The beauty of antique vessels, says Schopenhauer, arises from the fact that they express in so naive a way what they are intended to be and to perform. And the same applies to all the other articles of the ancients. On beholding them, one feels that if nature produced vases, amphorae, lamps, tables, chairs, helmets, shields, armor, and so forth, this is how they would look. Conversely, whoever observes general modern attitudes to art, state, religion, and education, not to speak, for good reasons, of our vessels, discovers in mankind a certain barbaric capriciousness.
A donkey-like capriciousness.
An intemperance of expression. And the genius is hampered, most of all, in his development by the prevalence in his time of such strange concepts and fanciful requirements. These are the
compose a resume. Looks good on resume. Do it. Do it. It's going to be eating up your time, but do it because it looks good on a resume. Yeah, take first aid courses and damage your knees. It looks good on resume.
Pressures which, invisible and inexplicable.
First aid stuff, they contradict, You take first aid level 1, and then in level 2, they just tell you everything you learned in level 1 is forget it. No, it doesn't apply. It's like, how does any of this make sense? But no, it looks good on yeah, I did that shit. And instead of reading philosophy, young adult, I had to take these first aid courses. To damage my knees. And you got to memorize a gajillion in one scenario. It's like, no, I'm not memorizing this shit. So I just, whatever. Stupid first aid crap instead of learning philosophy.
Chef, oh, how I love summer. Something about it just makes you feel your best.
The moon is red-ish. I've never seen it this red. It's an omen. Yeah, what's going on? Nice evening, but yeah, what the hell? I've never seen the moon this orangey. The moon, the moon is on fire. Let it burn. The moon burns down, the tides are going to be all out of whack, and then it's going to be Splashdown Park all over the globe. Come on, focus. Want to see that red moon? There it is. Yeah, burn down. And the world can splish-splash itself into oblivion.
They feared FDR as he saved their ass. And so many myopic, extremely wealthy people existed in America in the 30s. And that's how many fucking myopic, wealthy people exist in America today. Y'all's is just so fucking cognitively rotten.
For more such bile, check out the last video, How to Avoid Tyranny. This is kind of peak bile.
MAGA turns Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Sunday. But then
No.
That's not true.
But then I get confused about what day of the week it is. But just before, it was peak bile. It was peak bile.
Myopic.
I'm proud of my...
People exist in America too. Fucking myopic.
I'm proud of my peak bile. It's a highlight.
Wealthy people exist in America today. Y'all's is just so fucking cognitively rotten. MAGA turns Silicon Valley.
For more bile, watch that video. It tanked. I posted it on a Saturday. It tanked extra hard. Watch the video. It's got more bile. And some insights too. Because I'm also insightful. Man, look at it go. Marvelous, just marvelous creatures. How could I ever think them malicious? They seem to have migrated to the asphalt. Oh, but they're so marvelous and sturdy and virtuous from a, Protestant work ethic standpoint. And analogous to various graphics indeed. Deleted? I don't have time to watch, but it doesn't look good. It's not the year to skip, guys. I can write your scripts for you and then some. It's not the year to skip. But more updated stuff. Yeah, because apparently, it's not just Colbert and Stewart. Apparently, this whole merger crap or whatever it is, Colbert got the boot, and I guess Jon Stewart's gonna get the boot, and okay, they're fine, but I didn't care. But now, there's videos I don't have time to watch that say South Park is also implicated. It better not be. As good as South Park can be, even nowadays, there's still so many scenes that I'd like to, touch up and add to. There's so many scenes. So it's also kind of frustrating to watch, but, if you all think I've spent too much time on Fraudster and MAGA before, if Fraudster and MAGA are the cause of the discontinuation of South Park, well, I'm going to be next level pissed, but I guess I'll make time for this one. If I can record on it, I guess I can make some time for it. But yeah, even when it's firing off on all cylinders, I have so many other things that I can add to, even the best of episodes. I can make them 3+ hours long. I can make each episode, I can add so much to even the best episodes that I can make them as long as my preposterously long videos. It better not be the end. I need to write the end. I have a video that's coming up, how to end South Park. And looks like South Park will actually end before I finally get around to releasing that video. But yeah, Colbert, Stewart, these guys are fine. It's just these guys have to abide by
in Colbert's case, network standards. He has to be, has to be cucked by the network, and still, it's too much for Fraudster to take. It still can't even take, PG-13 level mockery. That's how weak Fraudster is. Even PG-13 straitjacket mockery is too much for him to muster. He has to try to end it all. Whatever. Maybe it is the network that decided to can the show, but because ratings. But it's the highest rated of the late night shows. It's Colbert. It's still too much for him. Man, look at it go. Look at it go. That's more like it. They've since released 2 episodes. The segment that just ended, I'm, somewhat panicky. Oh no, there may be no more new South Park. But here we are, it's the 11th. God, I gotta get this fucking video out already. It's the fucking 11th. It's just dragging. But, I was like, oh no, there may be no more South Park. It may be gone. And I'm like, well, am I really waiting with bated breath for South Park? No, I just want to make my own. I want the rights to utilize these characters in ways that I think even Matt and Trey aren't creative enough to utilize. So no, it's out. It's been out. 2 episodes been out. I'm yet to see either of them. Partly because I'm strapped for time, but partly because I'm just afraid that I'll riff on them. And so there's a copyright concern. Okay, you know what? Maybe this one. Yeah, maybe I am somewhat eager to see this one. But in general, yeah, I've not seen either. I've not even seen a single clip. Just the GIF/GIF. So I still consider myself a fan, but I'm like an obscene fan. Like, this is Guinness record-setting type stuff that... I'm a loyal viewer since '98, pretty much since the show started, and here making a triumphant return. And I've just got no motivation to actually sit down and watch these 2 episodes, but I will, repurpose the episodes, at least the images, for my ends, because that's what it's all about. Got more enthusiasm for repurposing stuff than actually watching the OG folks who create it take it to wherever it's going to be taken next. I just kind of thought it's worth a comment, but I'll get around to watching. What I need to do is just upload this fucking video, then I'll, and I'm not even saying I'll riff on it like, as it's playing. No, I mean just like freeze frame, because that's what's happened last couple of seasons. I keep pausing the episodes to at least do little mental notes on what to riff on later, but it's like, no, just enjoy it the way you used to enjoy it when you were a kid who didn't have anywhere near the amount of powers of ideation that you do now. Sometimes, yeah, excessive ideation is a curse. Folly is its own burden, but, if you got a little too much ideation, that can be its own burden too, because you just can't enjoy creative stuff the way you used to, because you just immerse your own imagination into the thing that you're just supposed to be a spectator for. But it's a problem I can live with. That's a problem I can live with, unlike all the other problems I've been bitching about in this video so far. The conflict theory problems. Those are the big problems. This is just kind of, icing on the cake. But I'm sure that Matt and Trey will make me proud and will, pull no punches. Maybe I just made it out as if I'm eagerly anticipating the new one, because then I can just kind of blame Fraudster some more for ruining yet another thing that's good. But I guess they didn't ruin it yet. What did I do? Okay. All right. It's time to, it's time to move on. And I think it's more Nietzsche coming up. Yeah, there's some more Nietzsche coming up. With the final Nietzsche segment. And then some Timothy Snyder stuff, and then it's a wrap. But I think Fraudster also befriended Diddy at one point or another, right? Yeah, Fraudster just has a knack for the wholesome folk. So it's Nietzsche, and he's gonna get punchy, but in a bit. But it's Nietzsche on the use and abuse of history. and it's audio because I'm all spaced out. I'm all spaced out again. But, it's Nietzsche in the use and abuse of history. And this is first go, but I got to capture this.
One may bring the
sped up a bit.
Greatest and most marvelous thing to perfection.
One may bring the greatest and most marvelous thing to perfection, and
it must yet go down to Orcus, unhonored and unsung. For art flies away when you are roofing your deeds with the historical awning. The man who wishes to understand everything in a moment, when he ought to grasp the unintelligible as the sublime by a long struggle, can be called intelligent only in the sense of Schiller's epigram on the reason of reasonable men. There is something the child sees that he does not see, something the child hears that he does not hear, and this something is the most important thing of all. Because he does not understand it, his understanding is more childish than the child's, and more simple than simplicity itself. In spite of the many clever wrinkles on his parchment face, and the masterly play of his fingers in unraveling the knots, he has lost or destroyed his instinct.
Inquisitive instinct.
He can no longer trust the divine animal.
Yeah.
And let the reins hang loose when his understanding fails him and his way lies through the desert. His individuality is shaken and left without any sure belief in itself.
It's in its fully fanged self. All these people, they don't get it. They've just been professional too often. Been professional pretty much in school. And then to get the big bucks after school. You've just been professional too much, and it's left you defanged. And then you cultivate mass sensibility along those same lines. And you're guilty of what Nietzsche's talking about here. People have just been professional too often. I just see it all over YouTube. These people are psychologically self-defanged because they've had to be professional too much. The internet itself is too professional. It's partisan, it's zealous, it's intolerable, but it's also very professional. It's professionalized. And like Nietzsche would have seen it coming.
He can no longer trust the divine animal and let the reins hang loose.
Yeah, they're just defanged and professional. So of course they fall in line. Of course everyone neatly fell in line. One of two big coalitions. When it was, when it was go time, all those nuances were left in the dustbin. When it was go time, everyone fell in. Well, I guess not everyone. I guess a lot of Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan, were like, no, we're not going to be Manichaean about this. We're going to stay out. And I guess there's still a lot of white progressives who are doing apologia for that crowd. It's like, no, that crowd was right. It's like, no, that crowd's got you what it got you in terms of these ceasefires and fraudstery assurances, you fucking idiots, but you still won't eat crow on that. But anyway, I'm just saying the internet is too professional, and it cultivates a kind of professional approach to even these debates. So, there's just a lot of people who are being nice to each other, even though, the second after the live stream ends, they start trashing each other. So it's like, why don't you just trash each other during the damn call or during the damn event? Because everyone's just too used to being professional. It's like, we have to engage more with the other side. It's like, no, not if I have to do so professionally. Maybe as a duel, but not if I have to do so professionally. I've got a Catholic friend. That's what that whole thing up on my wall is about. And yeah, very nice guy. One of these guys, he'll never be an atheist. He'll never. So I just don't bother. He'll never be an atheist. So I just don't bother. But he's got all the goodwill in the world for me. So it's like, how can I take that stupid thing down from my wall? It's like, I'm not deluded. But see what I got up on my wall? Because I'm just too defanged when I deal with him. Because I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to hurt him because it works for him, because he needs it. But that's pathetic that he needs it. But it really does work for him. His, doing his share in his communita
in his church. Yeah. But, you know, I'm too professional about it. So he thinks he can, like, because he's got all the goodwill in the world for me. It's like, oh, I'm so happy now that I have this virgin bitch up on my wall.
When his understanding fails him.
Sorry. This was, I just had to get that off my chest. I guess I just had to get that off my chest. So we're going to hang again. And, you know, am I going to be as accommodating this time? Or am I going to just say, yeah, you think it's God. You think God's talking to you. I call psychosis. You know? That's where if I weren't cultivated by these, you know, professional standards, starting with fucking, even before I worked, starting with high school, they just want you to, when they tell you to, you know, straighten up and listen, they want you to be professional. That's what it is. Ooh, hall monitor. No, they want you all getting accustomed to being professional, spending a huge chunk of your life in professional mode, being all defanged. It's like, I can't be defanged next time, even though it's like, you know, if I tell him, you know, it's going to hurt him. It's going to hurt him. At least I suspect. But I can't be Mr. Nice Guy on this faith stuff. Even to the person who's got all the goodwill in the world for me, I can't, because then I'm being untruthful. You know, how is it not psychosis? Because it doesn't derange them and cause them to have all kinds of fears the way it does with the actual, you know, people who succumb to one or another type of psychosis. But when it's uplifting and spiritual and affirming and saintly, then no, it can't be psychosis. Yeah, fine, maybe it's not psychosis. When they engage with God. Revelation. You know. But it's one or another type of madness they fall into. You know, and I haven't said that. And, you know, we're going to hang again. So it's like, it's just that one or another type of madness you've fallen into. But because it doesn't leave you frightened, it leaves you feeling loved. You think you're loved by Yahweh or whatever, Muhammad, whatever it is. You know, it's all these monotheisms, but they think they fall into, in the worst case, a psychosis, or in the best case, just a mild form of madness. They're in a maddened frenzy, and they're left feeling loved. So it's like, oh, that must be true. I'm left feeling loved. So, oh, that must be true. It must be true. Yeah, it's true. Like the white fat guy felt himself to be Michael Jackson in that Simpsons episode. Yeah, that's how it's true. He felt himself Michael Jackson. And then the frenzy was over at the end of the episode, and he just told him what happened. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty mad. He's like, the frenzy's over now, and this is who I really am. But at the bottom of it, I'm pretty mad. The guy, the big fat guy, Lisa, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Lisa. Yeah, they had MJ come in and do the character. But they were clever, so they made this big fat guy who just LARPed as MJ, but he really believed it because it was he was in a frenzy and he was mad. And that's all theism is. It's just you have a lot more cohorts. So you get off the hook thinking you're not as mad as that white guy who felt himself MJ when he got Lisa to cheer up about the fact that she was a loser on her birthday. You know, they brought MJ in to do the voice, and, you know, the guy, he wasn't, you know, I identify as MJ. I was assigned at birth non-MJ, but I identify as MJ, Michael Jackson, and so I'm going to sing the song. And it's like, okay, but, you know, I don't care what you identify. You're not Michael Jackson. But then it's like, that's what it means to end up feeling loved after you've had an encounter with God or Christ or, you know, whoever. You've just gone mad for a bit. You've had a frenzy. But you have a lot of cohorts, so you get organized about it, and then the rest of us can't tell you shit. Well, I'm going to tell you some shit. I'm going to tell you you're just like
You're just like what The Simpsons did in 1991 with that big fat guy whose name I forget, but he was, he LARPed as MJ. You're just LARPing as someone who God loves, so there has to be a God. God had to be.
Any clever wrinkles on his parchment face.
Yeah, but hang on. This was about the use and abuse of history.
Most important thing of all. Because he does not understand it, his understanding is more childish than the child's, and more simple than simplicity itself. In spite of the many clever wrinkles on his parchment face and the masterly play of his fingers in unraveling the knots, he has lost or destroyed his instinct. He can no longer trust the divine animal and let the reins hang loose.
Yeah, I took it to a place where I'm not even going to pretend there's a segue between these two things. I'm sorry, I just had to get some things off my chest. Whatever, I'll put this in. God had to be.
When his understanding fails him and his way lies through the desert, his individuality is shaken and left without any sure belief in itself. It sinks into his own inner being, which only means here the disordered chaos of what it has learned, which will never express itself externally, being mere dogma that cannot turn to life. Looking further, we see how the banishment of instinct by history has turned men to shades.
But inquisitive instinct, right, Nietzsche's? You mean inquisitive instinct, not, the pelvic types.
Abstraction. See how the banishment of instinct by history has turned men to shades and abstractions.
Yeah.
No one ventures to show a person
indulgers of God loves me dogmas.
Personality, but masks himself as a man of culture, a savant, poet, or politician.
Or having goodwill because God showed me the way type.
If one
But it's like, there is goodwill, so it's really hard, right? It'd be so easy if you kind of suspected that their goodwill was just this facade, But it's like, maybe I should just fucking ask you got all this goodwill for me, pay the rest of my mortgage, and then I'll do these videos faster.
Hold of these masks, believing he has to do this.
Yeah, anytime you have someone in, your life who's more religious than they should be, it started out non-denominational, and then they got, whatever, in my case, the guy became Catholic. But if you got some kind of and it's hard to go hard at them. It's hard to go hard because the will really is good coming from them, right? Just kind of get over it and hit them where they need to be hit them where they need to be hit, despite the goodwill. Maybe that's what it means to be ballsy. It's none of this typical discourse about the PC people, cancel culture's all silencing and stuff. It's like, no, it's, just there's just these people who have a lot of goodwill. There's just these people who have a lot of goodwill for you, and it makes it hard. But you got to be ballsy enough to do it. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna use the P word. I'm gonna call psychosis.
Serious thing, and not a mere puppet show. For they do have an appearance of seriousness, he will find nothing but rags and colored streamers in his hands. He must deceive himself no more.
That's the punchy part.
But cry aloud, "Off with your jackets, or be what you seem." A man of the royal stock of seriousness must no longer be Don Quixote, for he has better things to do than to tilt at such pretended realities. But he must always keep a sharp lookout for him, call his "Halt, who goes there?" to all the shrouded figures, and tear the masks from their faces, and see the result. One might have thought that history encouraged men above all to be honest, even if it were only to be honest.
See, at least I was honest here, right? So if I spread the channel, this is one of the reasons I don't spread the channel. It's like, then it's just passive aggressive, right? If it happens upon this, but it's not, it's indirect. So that's why I don't spread the channel. So I talk a lot of shit on the channel.
Fools.
Maybe I gotta talk more shit IRL, and then I'll talk less shit on the channel. How's that?
Used to be its effect, but is so no longer.
It's not that I wake up and I want to talk shit. It's just people drive me to it. You understand that? I'm not motivated to be this way. It's just people drive me to the brink of, and then finally talking shit.
Historical education and the use
But what does Nietzsche say?
To all the shrouded figures
Yeah.
and tear the masks from their faces and see the result.
The result's going to be a lot of butthurt, but then it's like, no, I'm all cool with it, bro. It's like, no, I know he's not going to be cool with it. You know, the truth is, I've never been more anti-theistic than I am in 2025. It's still 2025. You know, God had to be, is going to be, whatever, 15 videos away. So, yeah, it's still 2025 here. It's May 8th. I need to have some time off. I need to quit and retire. But, you know, Canada's still kind of on the chopping block with this whole tariff stuff. And what are we going to do? It's 80%. There's an 80% opening for trade stuff for Canada. You know, so how can I even do a prognosis on when I can retire? It's hard. But yeah, it's, you know, this is going to go in God had to be, which is like ways away. But now we're in mid-2025 and... Oh, I'm hungry too. That was my gut. That was my gut. Yeah, it's just people drive me to, you know, have to talk shit. They just can't let go of stupid crap, and it's like, then what you say will be ruinous to them, right? In terms of how they live their lives, they have to believe it's all hospitable at the very bottom of it. You know, not at the cosmos level, but just, you know, that other godly, divine realm. There must be hospitability. I must be loved. All I'm going to do is point out how I'm going to be this kind of malevolent force. That's what's going to be. I'm going to be this malevolent force going, no, you ain't. It's not going to do him any good. So I must be defanged and professional. Even though we bash professionalism, that's the irony. You know, we bash all these phony things in the culture, and then it's like, oh, you should pipe down on the God stuff, because now you got me being bashful.
Might have thought that history encouraged men above all to be honest, even if it were only to be honest fools. This used to be its effect, but is so no longer. Historical education and the uniform frock coat of the citizen are both dominant at the same time. While there has never been such a full-throated chatter about free personality, personalities can be seen no more, to say nothing of free ones, but merely men in uniform.
Yeah, who would you have rooted for, Nietzsche, China or America? Who would you have been super invested in to prevail? Nietzsche, tell us. Oh, no, you weren't going to be invested, because Nietzsche has a personality.
With their coats anxiously pulled over their ears, individuality has withdrawn itself to its recesses. It is seen no more from the outside, which makes one doubt if it be possible to have causes without effects. Or will a race of eunuchs prove to be necessary to guard the historical harem of the world? We can understand the reason for their aloofness very
based and Reddit-pilled
well. Does it not seem as if their task were to watch over history to see
based and Nietzsche-pilled
that nothing comes out except other history, but that no deed might be historical to prevent personalities becoming free, that is, sincere towards themselves and others, both in word and deed. Only through this sincerity will the inner need and misery of the modern man be brought to the light, and art and religion come as true helpers in the place of that sad hypocrisy of convention and masquerade, to plant a common culture which will answer to real necessities, and not teach, as the present liberal education teaches, to tell lies about these needs, and thus become a walking lie oneself. In such an age...
Okay. It's just so good. You never want to stop. Look at it go.
Owner of Trump Burger Restaurants, which has several locations in the Houston area, has been arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement and now faces deportation. ICE says Roland Biani, a 28-year-old from Lebanon, overstayed his visa after entering the U.S. back in 2019. He was taken into custody in May and is now out on bond as he awaits immigration proceedings.
My thoughts exactly. But lose the
excuse me, sorry.
But lose the hat.
Freedom of speech is about the person. Freedom of speech is about the least fortunate. That's what freedom of speech is about. And we've gotten ourselves turned around to thinking that freedom of speech is about...
Timothy, it's about all ideological speech being protected speech. And then you can take it further once that's granted, but that has to be granted. All ideological speech ought to be protected speech. That's my waffles. It's going to be a waffle day. So do you agree or disagree with that, Tim? You know, you believe in hate speech, probably somewhere. If I spent like 5 minutes looking for it, I'd find it. Oh, there's Timothy defending the idea of hate speech. So in Timothy's view, it's not all ideological speech that ought to be protected. It's only the good, the good and the, you know, striving to be good ideological speech that ought to be protected speech. But the out and out, I'm bad, I'm evil, I want to annihilate people, that ought not be protected speech. But I'm like, you know, then what kind of a peoples are we even? You know, if there's that many peoples of our own fellows, you know, we believe in democracy, right? But what kind of a peoples are we even then that we have to ban it? Because unless we outright ban the, you know, blathering on of those ideas, the blathering and re-blathering on of those fascist ideas and ideals and precepts and all that stuff, and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, if we have to outright ban it, then we ought to ask ourselves, what kind of a peoples are we even? Ought this continue? Oh, but you're not asking those deeper questions. You just say ban the bad people. I don't say ban the bad people, but you're making a different point here, Timothy.
It's about.
Let me.
Freedom of speech is about the least fortunate.
Oh.
That's what freedom of speech is about. And we've gotten ourselves...
But, you know, that's like, you know, freedom of reach kind of stuff. And by the way, what do you make of frank speech? Shouldn't we, above all, aim for frank speech? So, okay, if you're vulnerable and you can muster frank speech, I ain't got no truck with you. I don't care if you're vulnerable or not. You know, by some accounts, I'm vulnerable. I am attentionally... In terms of attention, the stats don't lie. I am attentionally vulnerable and oppressed. But you don't see me bitching about it.
Turned around to thinking...
I turn it into bits.
That freedom of speech is about...
Especially when I play from Timothy, who like wants to reinvent the meaning of freedom of speech. It's about the vulnerable. It's about Tenement Square.
It's about the algorithms. It's about...
No, he's saying it's not about the
algorithms.
We've gotten around to thinking.
That freedom of speech is about this. It's about the algorithms. It's about the stuff where no human is actually behind it. But freedom of speech is all about the person and the very specific risk you run, which is harm to yourself, harm to your body, risk of death or injury. The risk you run when you speak truth.
He's one of the good guys. I just want to take my shots because, you know, it's like, it's the man who never jokes. You know, Timothy Snyder. There's nothing all too objectionable, but it's like every time it's one of these town hall things, it's like, it's the man, like there will be no jokes here, not a single one. Because that's just how seriously Timothy has grasped the modern plight. That's just how seriously Timothy has grasped. He will not even witticisms.
So I think in this country, we have to be thinking about how we cultivate free speakers. You don't have to worry about the wealthy and the powerful, right?
You have to let people like me feel like we can be relaxed to make really offensive jokes. And then we'll speak freely, and then in the meantime, we'll riff in our own way. But like, if we feel that things that are adjacent to racist are also racist, then yeah, we're just going to be too cumbered to make the jokes. And then we won't speak freely. So, you know, you always got to get your sense of humor back.
Their rights to free speech.
Or else you'll lose out on free speakers like me, or you'll just ignore our videos, whichever.
Although they will naturally be constitutionally protected, they're not the issue. The issue is
Are we all well informed enough? Are we all confident enough?
Yes.
Are we all protected enough?
Yes.
That we feel like
I'm speaking for myself. I would not say yes for the rest of the especially American public.
Express ourselves freely, and of course, the answer to that is no. And not just for
pick your QAnon flavor.
Minorities or people who are at risk for other reasons. There are lots of people in many counties in the Midwest, which I've been visiting, who will not put out yard signs indicating which candidate they are for because they are physically afraid. That's a problem of freedom of speech.
Ooh, Timothy, your audio is awful. And yeah, it's the campaign of fear. That's the MAGA, is the campaign of fear. And maybe I'm rough on Americans, and last time on No Avail, I said they ought to move out to those rustic hellholes, but it's like, would I? No, I wouldn't. Even if I can be guaranteed to sway more people, would I move out to those rustic hellholes just to be more epistemically and, politically goodly impactful? No. I probably wouldn't even stay in America at this point. I am Canadian.
Was underground in Kharkiv, in the city of Kharkiv, in northeastern Ukraine, about 35 miles from the Russian border, a few miles from the front. And we were underground because the city of Kharkiv is regularly attacked by missiles. And
he's brave.
You don't have time to get underground, so if you're gonna have some
flown out numerous times. He's brave. If I take shots at him, I should also point out, motherfucker's brave.
Big gathering like this one, you have to have it underground.
You're one of the braver historians around.
And I'm thinking of it partly because I'm wearing the same clothes now that I was wearing in that.
I'm still gonna do a lot of segments, just taking shots at you, just simply for being a historian.
I've been thinking the whole time how different this is, that I can sit not underground, and Stephen and I and you, we're not worried about missile attacks. We know when we come out of the theater.
Econ called it wants its shtick back.
More buildings in Kalamazoo won't have been destroyed.
But yeah, I mean, he's been to areas that are non-safe. So kudos. Whatever. Better better something than wimp. Yeah, so there's people who read nothing, and that's a problem. And then there's people who read too much. And Shop understood it, no one understands it today. There's people who read too little and people who read way too fucking much.
The intellectual attainments of the merely learned man, on the contrary, resemble a big palette covered with every color. At most, systematically arranged, but without harmony, relation, and meaning. Reading is thinking with someone else's head instead of one's own. But to think for oneself is to endeavor to develop a coherent whole, a system, even if it is not a strictly complete one. Nothing is more harmful than, by dint of continual reading, to strengthen the current of other people's thoughts.
Yeah, and the whole intellectual sphere is premised on them plugging ever more podcasts that they've done, ever more books that they've written, ever more, them. We've just heard them for hours at a time, and then they're going to plug more of their stuff. Instead of asking, hey, audience members, let me listen to you now. Someone in the audience. No. It's they talk at you, and then they plug other stuff where they talk at you some more, or write at you some more. And no one gets it. No one gets that's a problem. Especially if you fancy yourself as, being a fan of independent thinking. Yeah, don't ever write a book if you're going to tell me you're a fan of independent thinking. You're not. If you write books, say what you will about the length of these videos. At least I'm not audacious enough to ever think I can write a, 800-page book.
These thoughts springing to strengthen the current of other people's thoughts.
Yeah, that's what you do when you read a lot.
These thoughts springing from different minds, belonging to different systems, bearing different colors, never flow together of themselves into a unity of thought, knowledge, insight, or conviction, but rather cram the head with a Babylonian confusion of tongues. Consequently, the mind becomes overcharged with them and is deprived of all clear insight.
Just as you can with hard work, you can with over-reading. So there's an armchair side to this problem, and then a grind side to this problem. Very few people think independently for long enough per day, because they got to be out in the real world. They got to be participants.
Almost disorganized.
Whatever, if it's about, maintaining shelter and stuff, fine. But there's a lot of you, I'm sure, who contribute to this problem of our environment, our digital environment. where, you know, it rewards not only psychopaths, people are kind of finally waking up to that, but it also, you know, awards these, you got to have a book to plug for us to bring you on, or some other kind of venture that's a recognized venture. Yeah, that's a problem. And I'm kind of glad it's, you know, I'm kind of glad there's that many people, because they couldn't identify this to save their life. What he identifies, all these people who plug shit couldn't identify it on their own if their lives depended on it. So I'm kind of glad that there's consternation now. That the troggy troglodytes, troggy psychopaths are kind of winning the digital day.
And his bones. Consequently, the mind becomes overcharged with them and is deprived of all clear insight and almost disorganized.
It's good to see the hacks, you know, get out-hacked by even bigger hacks. I'm not happy that the even bigger hacks are winning the day attentionally, in the attentional arena. I'm just glad that the lesser hacks are now feeling a lot of consternations. Oh, the even bigger hacks have won the day. But the problem is they don't understand that they're hacks. You know, whatever. You know, Glenn Lowry doesn't understand that he's a hack.
This condition of things...
But Glenn Lowry kind of likes the Trump one, so bad example. John McWhorter.
...may often be discerned in many men of learning.
Yeah, John McWhorter could have been a misanthrope, but chose not to because he just had to keep up appearances in academia. But yeah, Glenn is a bad example. Glenn likes the Trump one. I didn't listen to the podcast. I just know he released a podcast. Why I'm glad Trump won. It's like, Glenn, I'm done with you. I'm done with you, you fucking moron. But yeah, John should have been a misanthrope.
Inferior in sound understanding.
But John also is the type to just write a lot of books. Boy, howdy, how many books has John McWhorter told us of his to read over the years?
And almost disorganized. This condition of things may often be discerned in many men of learning, and it makes them inferior in sound understanding, correct judgment, and practical tact to many illiterate men, who, by the aid of experience, conversation, and a little reading, have acquired a little knowledge from without, and made it always subordinate to, and incorporated it with their own thoughts. The scientific thinker also does this to a much greater extent. Although he requires much knowledge and must read a great deal, his mind is nevertheless strong enough to overcome it all, to assimilate it, to incorporate it with the system of his thoughts, and to subordinate it to the organic relative unity of his insight, which is vast and ever-growing. By this means, his own thought, like the bass in an organ, always takes the lead in everything.
Into the constantly growing industries of pseudoculture, into the adult education business, which subsists on
Regulated culture anxiety.
It is like chaining a dog to a barrel. Only an educated man who has consolations within himself can endure confinement.
I didn't want to disrupt the Orwell flow, but...
For confinement.
Wow. Talk about being time-bound. You thought it's good, but it's not good. Talk about being time-bound. Oh, hurly-burly, my educational hurly-burly. Nah, you learn the right stuff. You don't have to be on your hurly-burly treadmill. I'm probably another one of the old school guys I should know, but don't. I don't care. That's another hurly-burly I'm not on. I'm not on that, oh, might need to know this old school guy. Hurly-burly Newton. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Oh, that's what he looked like. Okay. Oh, damn. Well, no, the Newton... No, that's, yeah, no, it's not Isaac. It's not Isaac, there's some other Newton.
Doesn't look great, Donald.
Doesn't look great.
Doesn't look great, Donald.
Doesn't look great.
That's more like it. That's my Tim.
Doesn't look great, Donald.
And then I'm gonna give him the 69 saturation treatment. 69. Yeah, 3 69s for Tim. Well done. But he's adorable. I guess I start the timeline as I initially start editing. Because then why go back and do the timeline if you can just do it as you're working on the video? But then I forget. Like 8 minutes in and I forget to keep doing it. And I keep editing. But here's what's in the thumb. That's what's going to be in the thumb. Debut of Goddard. I may have mentioned Goddard before in a video, but I can't remember. So yeah, it's the debut of Goddard. God and Father, why have you forsaken me? But no, then you got to forsake the Goddard. Yeah, more stuff with System of a Down, System of a Crown, more stuff to come, and more lyrical hijinks to come in the future. But that's the thumb. Ugh, what are you doing? It's not gonna be as good. It's not gonna be as good. There's no way it's gonna come anywhere near to being as good as what Leslie Nielsen did in the 80s. Into the 90s too. I think that third one was from the 90s. But what are you all doing? Leave well enough alone. I don't care whether you're in your bathing suit anymore. I don't care whether you're in your bathing suit anymore. You know, you have no powers. You have no powers. But yeah, I'm not gonna watch. I'm gonna boycott. You know, because it should not be debauched. And also because, should I do it? Should I say it? No, I shouldn't say it. But yeah, I should say it. Age makes you older. Age makes you older. You know. But it comes for all.